What up, though? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where one pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey, which can only mean one thing. It is time for your weekly dose of college knowledge. Yes, it is the college football podcast for whom the bell tolls. Ryan McCluskey, this was a quote said very many years ago by the British poet John Sonne. He asked himself the hypothetical question, for whom does the bell toll, after he heard a funeral bell, and he answered that the bell tolls for everyone because every death affects all of us. And this may seem a weird thing to open the show with, but with 2 weeks of the college football season left, there are only three teams in the entire country that remain unbeaten, and amongst two of those three are the Cinderella stories of college football in 2024. The Indiana Hoosiers, the Army Black Knights, fighting for their right to make the college football playoffs. But for them both, week 13, which is coming up, is their judgment day, as the vast majority of the college football world rallies around these two underdogs. The Grim Reaper stands waiting. Will he be given the souls of the underdogs as we all collectively feel the pain of them falling? Or maybe, just maybe, Rye, will we be given one of the biggest shocks in college football in recent years, and one or both of these teams is able to do the unthinkable and cement their place there?
Yeah, it's interesting times. The bell has tolled for, well, I've locked nearly double-digit coaches this week. It's officially Black Friday already. It's come early. We've seen so many fired this week, seen some go, but yeah, we've got the chance for two teams. One head coach, even before, has already got an extension, and he's still got the chance to carry out, like, say, the dream fairy tale. And then, yeah, a service team potentially has the chance to go unbeaten in a regular season. Unheard of. But they've both got very stern tests. They've got two teams this week, like I say, that will determine whether or not they are in the conversation with the CFP committee in three weeks' time. One of them, like I say, could have a very strong case.
Exactly. This is where this is the business side now, folks. This is where one little slip up ends your hopes. And there are so many teams who have lost 2 games, who have lost 3 games, who should have been in that conversation. The opportunity is there for the willing participant and the guy who goes undefeated this season. So we will go through that later on. Of course, we'll take a look back at week 12 as well. And we're going to do another state of the conference address where we look through the conferences. Some teams, some of the first few teams have started reaching their conference championship games. One team even reached it and no one realized they'd reached it, which was incredibly funny. Even the conference hierarchy themselves didn't realize they got one of their championship game teams. So there is a lot on the docket this week. Let's just get all the housekeeping stuff out the way very quickly. Road Lines UK Discord, if you want in on that, let us know, and we'll fire you a link across. The main podcast, it is double dose again today, so it's coming up later this evening. We'll be talking Indianapolis Colts previews. The Lions look to go 10-1 on the season. Don't forget to like and sub to all our YouTube, Twitch, all that good stuff. Your support really does help us. Don't forget to help out with Lions Nation Unite as well. Herman Moore's community he has created, where a whole host of Lions content creators come together into one forum with you, the fans, to talk everything Detroit Lions. You can see a video of mine that I did yesterday on Jameson Williams is up on there at the minute, so go show some love if you've got a little bit of spare time. We're a Twitch affiliate, we're YouTube monetized, we've got a tip jar, so if you want to help us that way, great, but we just first and foremost love having you all in the building to chat ball with. We've got the feedback form as well, so any suggestions you have for the show, anything like that, fill it in. We will take it on board. Shout out to everyone in the building. Mile Marker is in there. He's going to buy an easel, so I assume he's going to do some painting in some form. So good luck with that. Hokey Doo is in the building. Brent DeWitt is in the building. So because of course this show is going to be dedicated a lot to his army team there. I say Hokey Doo's in the building as well. I go, sorry, Anthony, I'm not a huge college ball fan. My team is the Michigan State Spartans. They have some problems this year. They do indeed, Hokey Doo. But, we have a Golden Gophers fan in here. Mile Marker is. So, it's a place where you can all come and chat without fear of judgment. But hope you're doing well anyhow. Appreciate you dropping by. So we are going to drop into some news. first. And yeah, as Ryan mentioned to start the show, we've had a lot of firings and a retiring this week. We've had some transfer portal news. We've got a starting quarterback in there already, or he's going in soon. And we've had a retirement as well. So we just need to get through all these, and I hope I've got them there. So the state of all this. In the MAC, we've had three casualties, or technically will be three. It's one team coming into the MAC next year. So Jim McElwain, he is retiring from the Central Michigan Chippewas. We've got Don Brown, who has been fired by the UMass Minutemen. They are coming into the MAC next season, so UMass going to have a new head coach coming in there. And then we've got Mike New, who's been fired from Ball State as well. He won them a MAC championship in COVID year. But been very little on the success front since then. So, right, the MAC, for better or for worse, is changing next year. UMass have not been good under Don Brown's second tenure. This maybe feels like the correct decision from them to reset their trajectory before they enter the conference. And then, as I say, for Ball State, that was probably coming. They've been good recently. And for Central Michigan, Jim McElwain has been there forever. It is a team that has always, been on the better side of things without really, setting the world alight, but they're consistent, but maybe another program who will benefit from fresh leadership going forward. But the MAC already is going to be much change next year.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of sides, like you say, that have missed out on bowl eligibility, that can't get there. They're pulling the plug early. And I understand that. It's usually always around a week 9 or 10 where the firings start, because the teams that are at 4 and 5 wins, and you look at the remaining games and you just think you're not making it. Like say, Ball State, like say, been close in games, but overall not competitive in conference. UMass struggled for years, and I suppose a fresh lick of paint won't be too bad, like say, ahead of a new conference. But like I say, Jim McElwain, like I say, I watched the highlights from Wednesday night. Like I say, they beat the big rivals Western. They won the Battle Victory Cannon for the first time at home in 14 years. So he's actually leaving in pretty good stead. He's leaving on a high. Like I say, so hopefully, like I say, he's got one game left in it. Is he retiring next week? So hopefully he can go out on a high. But yeah, they've been really competitive in the MAC. Like I say, someone's inheriting a good team, and the Chippewas, like I say, it's on solid foundations, so they'll be fine. Like I say, he's part of the furniture, but I suppose just young blood. So some of the teams are further away than others, but yeah, I can't see this being the only vacancy. Only 3 vacancies in the MAC, depending on what happens this week.
No, it's the MAC is topsy-turvy at this moment in time. There was a massive win for Ohio, are looking pretty good this year. They had a big win over Toledo last night, and that was their sort of credential test for this. So, and they've been a little bit steady the last few years. So maybe we're about to see a changing of the guard. It's not going to be Toledo this year. We are going to have a new MAC champion. They cannot make it anymore, potentially. Maybe our Bowling Green prediction yet will still come true. In terms of other firings, so we actually had, these are the best ones, right? You have the ones where both coaches are fired from the same game at the end of a weekend. And Ash actually mentioned this stat to me, which I was completely flummoxed by. But every Owl team in the FBS has fired their head coach this year, which is crazy. So Stan Drayton has been fired from the Temple Owls, and Tom Herman has been fired from the Florida Atlantic Owls. And I mean, the Florida Atlantic have just been, they've been terrible this year. And I remember years ago when Tom Herman first went there, went in the early days of this podcast, and we were, thinking this is going to be a good appointment for them. They're going to flourish under him, but he's been there 2 years. His record is 6-16. His record in the American is 3-9. They're 0-6 this year. And then when it comes to Stan Drayton, his record is at Temple over the last 3 years. They're 9-25. He's 4-18 in the American. He's 2-4 this year. So, as you mentioned, like all these teams that can no longer make bowl games, that no prospects for them this year, they're both out. But these feel like two very I mean, maybe they're in years 2 and 3 respectively. So it's kind of early to pull the plug on them in the grand scheme of things for some of these teams. But those records are really bad, and maybe the teams have been a bit smart by resetting early rather than going for 4 or 5 mediocre years first.
Yeah, Tom Herman, like say what former was it, Texas?
Mhm.
So he came in with a serious, like actual proper strong resume, and he was expected to do what. If you think about it, he's directly compared to Lane Kiffin, you know, that took an FAU team that was pants. Got what 11 wins in a year. Like I say, didn't he win a title? Like I say, and he did that totally, like I say, out of the blue. And a lot thought Tom could replicate that, but after the FS after the South Florida game where the whole he was unhappy with Golesh, I felt the writing was on the wall. He's conducted himself very odd, and he's hard to interview. He doesn't seem like a very likable person sometimes, Tom Herman. He makes it difficult to buy time. Like I say, his record is bad. Of the owlish teams, like I say, I'd say they're the biggest. Yeah, well, no, they're up there because they've got recent success, aren't they? They've got more recent success than Temple. And on the flip side, Temple, see, they're a weird team because they recruit really well. Like I say, they've had some really big players in recent years. Like I say, they've got some big players right now. They've got a tight end from London, Peter Clark. They've got a British player from the NFL Academy. Like I say, they've had players like, oh, what was the Temple quarterback's name? Did they have, was it Rocky Lombard?
No,
Did they have
EJ Warner.
EJ Warner? Yeah.
Yeah, they're
See,
Kurt's son.
yeah, they've got some good players. There's talent there, but it's not materialized in anything in conference in the wins. So for me, you've got to look at the coaching, aren't you? Temple is a big school, and they've got boosters and they can bring in good money recruits, but they're not clicking. Something's not right on the field, so the coaching's going to get axed. But yeah, and then like you say, you add in is it Rice and Kennesaw State?
Yeah.
It's been a really bad year for anyone that is of the I don't know the Latin name for an owl, but it's not good. Like I said, and yeah, you, they need to get the right hires right. The next hires need to be right because, like you said, the landscape is changing. You can't afford to fall behind and multiple losing years. Someone's got to come in and get some success, but they're gonna have to build their own teams.
Yeah, and the interesting one, so Florida Atlantic's the really interesting one here. So I don't know whether you saw the post that was put in, but the guy who's been linked to this potentially former,
What a linebacker!
elite NFL player Ray Lewis has been linked to this, and everyone's saying, "Oh, he's going to take the Dion route." But let's pump the
I
brakes here.
don't
So
like.
we
No,
we
I don't
had
like that
we
move.
had the Dion route. Dion went to Jackson State, which in fairness, Jackson State is a very well-funded program compared to the rest of the stuff around it. He did well there. He had an abundance of talent. He did well. Nobody remembers when Ed Reed went to Bethune-Cookman and quit before it even got a game. He quit basically when he got to campus because he's like, oh, this is too hard. I can't be arsed with this. And like, so we've had one extreme of both so far. One who has succeeded and done incredibly well, one who didn't even coach a game. So where is Ray Lewis going to go? Which side is he going to go? And obviously, Florida Atlantic's probably a bit bigger than Bethune-Cookman. It's in the FBS for one. It's, more money, better talent pool potentially around, but it's still a very tough job and it's not easy. And you've got to have a spine to you. And these elite NFL players, sometimes they don't react very well to being judged and that when they do. I don't know. I feel like that would be a mistake for them. I don't know about you, Rye, but I would be wary about doing that.
Huge mistake. Has he even got any high school coaching experience, Ray Lewis?
Ray Lewis, hang on. Let's just have a look because I didn't even look see whether he had or not. But obviously, a
If
lot
he's
of
got,
players.
if he's no coaching experience, then stay well away.
He spent one season with. Hang on. One season with the Miami Dolphins as an NFL assistant before joining FSU's staff. Is he at Florida State? Um,
He's on their defensive staff, anyhow, I think so.
oh, he is. because the other guys, oh, who's the other Hall of Famer they've got? He's coaching the DBs there, is moving as well. So he's on FSU's staff as a defensive, but he's got one season with the Dolphins as an NFL assistant, joined FSU in 2023. So no head coaching experience, just
Yeah.
assistant, not even a positional coach. So
See, two big programs, like you say, he's mingled. He's got to have taken something from that. I suppose. Sure, next logical step would be a defensive coordinator somewhere. It's a big jump from going to a guy that does what strength and conditioning, does the warm up drills, like said, probably looks after the linebackers in the warm up, to going to a head coach that has to assemble what is he going to keep the coordinators? Is he going to keep some of the staff because he ain't going to build his own staff? Are all the linebackers in the class going to be like, oh, we want to go play for Ray Lewis, one of the best linebackers of all time. He surely knows how to coach us. I suppose it's just one of them things in these schools. They just find it really hard to say no.
No, and I mean, Dion didn't, but I guess it's about using your influence to get one, good coaches to come coach for you to help, and two, being able to draw the talent in there. Dion's always been able to draw the talent with him where he goes, and helps that he's got a son who's going to be an NFL quarterback as well. So, I mean, that'll be the real test of him when he's gone. Now, obviously, they got the massive commitment, not that long ago from the USC dropout. He's going there now. Oh God, what's he called? Is it Juju Lewis? Julian Lewis. So he's got his guy now, but it's not his son. So we'll have to see how he does. But it can work. You use your resources, you use your fame to bring in the right level of recruit and get the right level of coach with you. But we'll see what goes on with Florida
I think
Atlantic.
if you're gonna hire him, you got to give him like what at least you got to give him at least 3 years.
Yeah.
If you're going to give someone with no head coaching experience, you need to give him leeway.
But, yeah, I mean, look at Trent Dilfer.
Yeah,
like that's
it. Like I said,
yeah.
I don't know if he'll get the leeway that he needs.
No, I don't. I don't know who's competing for that job either yet.
Is he just going to hire
some
other former players as coordinators, or can he get if he can get some FSU staff to come with him? Then probably, yeah.
They should be good.
Yeah.
They should be good. Like they had the two big starting quarterbacks there. They had Daniel Richardson they got from the MAC, who was the start, and then they got the really big commitment from, and I can never remember his name. I think it was one of the old Texas QBs he brought along with him, but he was like a Power 5 starter they brought over. So they've got pull, but we'll wait and see what happens with Florida Atlantic. Anywho, and then the other bit of news in there, it's not quite season time to go in the portal yet, but some players do make it known that they are going in there. And we talked very briefly the other week about how Thomas Castellanos at Boston College had taken some time away from the team in light of him getting benched basically from the starting position. Well, he's off into the portal now. It's official. I don't know if he was official when we talked about it last week. Now I'm thinking about it, maybe he did, but we'll mention it again. He's going now. Bill O'Brien has managed to ruin him in a year. I don't know what the hell he's done to him, but you gotta figure he will court offers from Power 4 programs, maybe even programs like Florida Atlantic if he wants to go there and resurge his career in the top of the group of 5. But that'll be one of the hotter names in the portal so far. I don't think he's as bad as he is. We saw last year how great a dual threat quarterback is. This feels very much like a Bill O'Brien issue rather than a Thomas Castellanos problem.
Yeah, it was expected, like you say, to when we last reported it, but now it's official. It's going in. Yeah, it's a weird one. It feels like there's been a serious fallout. This is one of those we'll never know what happened behind closed doors. But it isn't just a benching, is it? It's something's been said, and he's taken it to heart and said, "I can't stay here anymore." And like I say, we've seen the elite freshman Thomas Castellanos this year, up and down turnovers. Like I say, first year in program in flux. I think he'll have loads of attention, and it should all be Power 4. I'd be very surprised if he ends up at a G5 school. I think a lot of teams will look at him. Not to mention, what is he, sophomore?
He's a sophomore this year.
So you could have maximum 4+ years. Right, so it's not like he's a junior where he might get a year or two. You got a lot of years with him. I think he should do really well, but
Mm,
he needs to pick very carefully. He needs to
yeah.
look at a score right now that has a quarterback like him. He's not a
Mm,
pocket passer because that's his only what 6 foot, 210, 200. Like you say, you need someone that's going to be able to give him the the freedom to say
yeah.
design runs and like kind of like do it on the fly a little bit, which is what he does best. Like kind of makes something out of nothing. Give it like say you can't just expect him to drop back in the pocket 40, 50 times. You just won't get from that from him.
I think you put him in a system like UCF, he would flourish. You know, you can use his legs there.
Yeah,
It's not re
UNLV.
UNLV could
They don't need a
be.
quarterback, but he would have fit there very well.
Yeah, I know they're group of five, but they can beat Power Five. Like you will get plenty of opportunities to impress there. Potentially, you'll be in the pack soon enough, maybe enough to be in that transition. So, one of those systems, I think he'd be great in. I think the UCS starters though, he's a freshman, isn't he? Now they've
Yeah,
benched KJ.
Reese.
They've got a freshman in there, so maybe he might that job might not be available. But a system like that, I would expect to
I
see
think
Castellanos in.
if he should be looking anywhere, if I'm him, I'm going to look somewhere like Purdue because Hudson Card's gone. All the eligibility is gone. I'd be looking at
Mm.
somewhere like the Boilermakers, a good Big Ten side.
Yeah, and you kind of do what Curtis Rourke's done at Indiana. You can turn that team around and you can put
Yeah,
yourself right in the
yeah, because
spotlight.
they're rotten right now. So
Yeah,
realistically, like I say, the floor is at the floor, so you can only make them better.
exactly, exactly. Okay, that's it. Everything in terms of news for now. We'll leave it there, and all the other bits of coaching bits we can go over in weeks to come. So we're gonna go down into the review for week 12 now. Now, as I was at a wedding this weekend, my best friend's wedding, I was there all weekend at this thing. This is the first time this season I've not really been able to watch any college ball, so this is going to be more of a basic recap as to compare to what we usually do on here,
Oh,
and we're
one bit
going
of
through
note
it.
news:
Oh, sorry, go on.
Shador Sanders. Would you say he's the biggest ever East-West Shrine Bowl commit?
Yes,
He has
yes,
got to be on yeah. He is a
yes.
massive, like say, high profile.
Half that Colorado team's going. His
Yeah, I saw the safeties going as well. He's
who's
good.
his Jimmy Horn's going.
Jimmy Horn.
Like Jimmy Horn on his own, Jimmy Horn on his own would probably be one of the biggest. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will. The commitments for the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl are coming out. When we get a big
Yeah.
list, we'll do it. But
I think next week, like you said, they've sent out like
yeah,
50 invites. I think we'll have an up
yeah,
to date stuff on that
yeah.
next week.
But half of that Colorado team's, and it's weird. They're going. I'm guessing is Shador a senior? Because it's weird that he's going to the
No,
Shrine Bowl and not the
I don't
Senior
think he's.
Bowl.
I don't think he's a senior.
How many years did he start at Jackson State? So he's had two starting years now at Colorado. He had at
Yeah,
least one starting year at Jackson State, which
yeah,
would put him as a junior.
yeah. So junior or
So
redshirt junior, yeah.
he's gonna. He must have only had one season as a starter at Jackson State then. Otherwise, because if he had four, he'd be senior eligible. So,
That or yeah, maybe he knows who the coach and staff are going to be.
or maybe they just don't want to go to the Senior Bowl. Maybe they feel like the Shrine, because the Shrine Bowl, like with the Shrine Bowl is where you get some of your really good, like Senior Bowl. Everyone goes there. The attention's all on everybody. It's all the high
It's
draft
quite
picks.
hard because as
Yeah.
well at the senior bowl, you play like four quarterbacks, don't you?
Yeah, whereas the Shrine, it's just three. So it's potentially going to be really good. I mean, who's the other quarterback who's been? Oh God, I'll have to have a little look later. But there's one quarterback going to the Senior Bowl who was like it was a hang on. It's just it's gonna bug me. This one is.
What are the chances we see Dion at the Shrine Bowl?
Oh
Honestly,
what?
I would not be surprised if Dion walks up to the Shrine Bowl.
Um. What? Just in case he wants to get a job in the NFL
Yeah,
and
it's
he's
just
he's
like
scouting for a
yeah, it
yeah.
won't surprise me.
Um, I will come back to it, but there is someone going to the. Oh, Wyatt Millam's going there, the left tackle from West Virginia. But there's a quarterback going to the Senior Bowl, which I'm really excited about. I can't remember who it is now. So, yeah, Oodalali. Grandaz is in the building. Hope you are well, Grandaz. So thanks for dropping in. Hope you do. Hope your appointment goes well. Let's say if you have any questions as we're going on, please let us know. But yeah, we're going to dive down into the week 12 review now, and we talk about two Cinderella stories this year, right? Indiana Army. I mean, a week ago, it was three. Cinderella stories, but unfortunately, as is so often happens, it's very tough to go unbeaten in a college football season. And Ryan will grin at this because this is the loss he probably wanted the most because it benefits his own team here. But the BYU Cougars on the road to the Kansas Jayhawks, and we put this out there as a potential big upset. Kansas had just beaten Iowa State and oh God, who was the other one? They'd beaten Iowa State and was it Kansas State? Oh no, they nearly beat Kansas State and they beat oh God, my mind's going blank now. They beat the two top teams in the Big 12 ranking wise and nearly beat Kansas State. And they were coming into this in all sorts of form. And this was heartbreaking for BYU. It ended 17-13 to Kansas. And this was a really good game. I've watched it back on the highlights, and for BYU, this was absolutely sickening. So Kansas took the lead in this Devin Neal star running back. He had a rushing touchdown. BYU responded with a field goal and a touchdown pass to Hinckley Rapati in the first half. Kansas got a field goal just before halftime, so it was 10-all at the half. BYU comes out, they get a field goal with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, which is all great and proper. But then I mean, this is what can only be described as absolutely sickening to end your season. So there was about 13 and a half minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and Kansas were on a drive. They were at the BYU 36-yard line, but they were on 4th and 14. And they were threatening to have to punt this. The Kansas offense comes out onto the field, so they're gonna go for it on 4th and 14. The ball is snapped. The play is as you think it's going to be, but Kansas pooch punted. So Jalen Daniels gets the ball and he punts it. And just a very short punt, but because everybody's playing like it's a regular play, and because it's a punt, not a throw, and let me just get my notes here. It hits BYU cornerback Evan Johnson, who is running back in coverage with a Kansas wide receiver. It hits him on the helmet, and because it's a punt, that's a live ball again. It lands on the field, barely moves. There is an uncontested grab of the ball by BYU cornerback Jacob Robinson, but he comes in like really quick at a rate of knots. He grabs it, it squirts out from underneath his body, rolls all the way to the BYU 3-yard line, and Kansas recover it. Then the very next play, Devin Neal runs it in for the go-ahead touchdown, and despite they get about 3 drives after this to try and be able to save this game, but eventually the game is ended with an interception, and Kansas are able to kneel this out. And I mean, like the Arizona State fans gonna love this because it blows the Big 12 wide open. But how sickening must that be, Ryan? You think that entire season BYU have had the narrow wins, the big wins, the gritty wins, positioning themselves all the way up at the top in the college football playoff rankings, and you get undone by a pooch punt in a situation that probably happens about one per every 1,000 times that play happens. Not just it hitting the guy on the head, but you losing an uncontested grab at it afterwards because you're going too fast and it just squirts out your grasp. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it was an ugly game. Like I said, both teams, both defenses, like I said, were on top. Like I said, it was smothering the hell out of each other. Devin Neal, like I said, has had a really good year. Like I said, he was getting hard working. John Daniels, like I said, won't get a lot for the air. Retzlav, like I said, we know for a fact that the Kansas Jayhawks have got two of the best corners, maybe in the Power Five. Like I say, Retzlav's guys, like I said, Lasseter and those, they were not getting open. Like I said, they were really good coverage. BYU's run game was, well, it's been like it has been all year. It wasn't great. Like I say, it's a team that has really struggled, but it's one of those. Like I said, it's a brave play call. I suppose though, pooch punt, it really can't go wrong. Like I say, because if he shanks it, it might go out at 5. It turns it 7. Either way, you're going to end up with a really long field because he's not going to go for a touchback. He's just going to chip it. And yeah, like I say, you create your own look. Like I say, it hits the helmet because it's one of those players where you really don't have a clue until it actually happens. It's going to happen because, like say, formations they don't show pump, and yeah, like say Robinson will be thinking about that play all year because if he recovers it, then sure, like say they've got the ball. They may have like 90 yards to go, but like say they can kill a lot of clock in doing so. But yeah, the fact it just works all its way backwards, and then if you give like say 3-4 yards to a guy like Neil, like you say, he'll hurt you. And then the ensuing drives, like say, were just like say a lot of punts, a lot of like say sloppy penalties, a lot of drops, or like say a lot of that. And then the game turning interception, like say it's a throw to it's a terrible throw. Like I said, the tight end is running like say an out route, and the ball has to go to the sideline, and he tries to go up into the corner. Like I said, the tight end doesn't go to the back pylon, and Mello Dotson just says thank you very much, just gobbles it up and ends the game. And that's one of the worst throws I've seen from him Retzlaff all year. Just like I say, that's not where it needed to be, and it was one of those where he could have saved them, but yeah, it was a sloppy, it was error prone, and yeah, not as it just an undefeated season, but now coupled with other results, like say, and a potential tiebreak, like their season, like I say, depending on what happens, like say next 24, 48 hours, is in jeopardy.
And you've
Like I
brought the
say,
rest of the conference into
you
it. You've
brought
brought
rest
all
of it.
those four win teams into the fold now. It's not just a
Yeah,
three-way fight, it's a
yep,
five-way fight now.
yep. Like I say, and coming, like I say, and now like I say, BYU's coming to a game against a team that is full of momentum, full of health there. And like I say, I never thought they'd be with an opportunity to be here. So yeah, this is from like I said, the cat among the pigeons. And right now, the Buffs are the team to beat. Like you say, it really is fascinating as the Big 12 right now. Like I say, BYU, how do you pick yourself up from this? Because it's a sloppy loss that it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. But now you've got to dust yourselves down to go up against one of the best offenses, one of the better offenses in the country. Right?
Yeah.
And you might get dragged out in a shootout. We're gonna see mentally what they are. And on the flip side, Kansas Jayhawks, what a weird team. If you flip all their one score games this year, they're probably firmly in the title mix. Like they are a really good team, and I've seen them be competitive in so many games and score points, but they can't finish. They're
No.
terrible late on. They're terrible in the fourth quarter, and they let games go. But this time, like I say, they took the lead. They were clutch. Their defense came up. It became really stout, and they saw it out. And are they going to win anything this year? Nope. Will they win a bowl game? Maybe not. No. But I suppose in a weird bit of way, they can always be the team that remembers we ruined BYU season, and that should bring a little grimace smile to their face.
I know, and they'll be wondering what is. They've beaten three of the best teams in the big over the last month. And, they've beaten Iowa State, they nearly beat Kansas State. It's a what could have been for them. Like, they could have been right up there, and they're really going to be kicking themselves for it. But this, as I mentioned, opened doors, and we may as well segue into the other top of the Big 12 fixtures here because it was, well, this was supposed to be running back on running back this week, but the reason this Arizona State team is so dangerous this year is because it's got itself a quarterback as well, and this turned out to be a quarterback game. But Arizona State on the road at Kansas State, you, for the first time this season, picked them your wavering belief. That must be unwavering belief now. 24-14, and they absolutely, and this was not a close game. Arizona
It was
State
over at the half.
scored all their points to start. So it was 21 nothing at the half. Two touchdowns for Jordan Tyson, one for Shamon Metaya, and then there was a field goal just after half time. So 4 minutes into the second half, it's 24 nothing. Kansas State get two touchdowns back, but they're 10 points down. There's only 11 minutes to go. They have to get really aggressive. That gives opportunities for Arizona State turnover. There's an interception in there. There's a fumble forced in there as well. Sorry, there's two interceptions for Arizona State, a forced fumble as well. And, this was the Sam Levitt show, Ryan. The name I've seen coming up a lot in recent weeks is Junior receiver Jordan Tyson, 84 yards and a touchdown against Utah, 108 yards against Cincinnati, 81 yards and a touchdown versus Oklahoma State, 99 yards and 2 touchdowns versus UCF, 176 yards and 2 touchdowns against Kansas State. Those are his last 5 games. 833 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns this year. He played in his freshman year nearly 500 yards. Didn't record a stat in his sophomore year, so I assume injury, but breaking out big this year and taking the load off Cameron Scatibo, who got to kind of have a week off whilst the rest of the offense did it for him, and that's dangerous. They have just put a good Kansas State team on their own turf to the sword, and now there's no joking anymore. This isn't a Cinderella story. This is a we're for real, and we can do this story now.
Yeah. Sam Levitt, like you say, has been a breath of fresh air for the offense. Like you say, he is an elite dual threat quarterback. He is so athletic. Like you say, he's got pinpoint laser accuracy. Like you say, he's posed in the pocket. I mean, going back to recent years, like maybe since the days of like Taylor Kelly, he might be the most talented quarterback they've had in years. Like I say, John Tyson, stellar year. Anyone go watch the first touchdown from this weekend's game. Go watch the foot he gets down at the back of the end zone and he secures the catch. It's a phenomenal catch, and the throw is perfect. And yeah, like I say, he's got a young receiver opposite him, number 1, Xavier Guillory. Like I say, he's a really young guy. And this is hard because, like I say, we had Elijah Badgers in Florida, like I say, doing really well. He was really good for us last couple of years. But obviously, with all the controversy, he said, I'm out. Like I say, I'm hitting the portal like Ricky did. Like I say, and yeah, someone had to step up, and John Smith. And those two, like I say, have been a mustard connection all year. Like I say, tight ends, like I say, but he really has been the guy that's carried the offense vertically. Like I say, having a stellar year. He's going to get a lot of attention in day 2 and day 3 of the draft. I expect to see him at one of the Shrine or the Senior, or like I said, the Hula Bowl. Like I said, a really good year. And yeah, Cam, good, fine, but didn't have to rush for 200 yards, didn't have to like carry on his back, coming off, like say, a head neck injury. Yeah, and then the defense. Yeah, really good. Alford with the interception. Got a couple of interceptions this year, the safety. He's had a really good year. Turnovers. McCulloch again, the linebacker. He has been phenomenal in recent weeks. They got back Bowser, the starting linebacker. So yeah, right now this team, like I say, it's good. It's healthy. The guys come back from injuries, and like I say, right now, we've beat with the head-to-heads. Is it a winning in? I think it's as good as one.
There's Iowa State still in this.
If Colorado were to lose and we would beat BYU,
yeah, then you're in.
Then they're in.
I think because you've not played Iowa State and you've not played Colorado, so it comes to seedings and it comes to the tiebreakers. So who's got the? But I mean, you've played Kansas State. You've not played Iowa State. I feel like your schedule's been tougher though than what maybe Colorado have had.
Oklahoma State. They started with Mississippi State, so we've got an SEC team.
Yeah,
they had Texas State that were unbeaten. They beat them on the road.
Yeah. We'll have to look at how these work. It'll be close, but this one, winning this week, that'll put BYU out of it.
Then it's in their hands.
Yeah. Oh no, it will, because BYU will have lost 2, you will have lost 2, so you'll have the tiebreaker on them. So it's in your hands. But Iowa State still figure into this right now, so I've got to figure how they do. We'll see. We'll get round to that in the bits there. But speaking of, like, are Colorado the best team in the Big 12 right now? Like, is it because 49?
I can't really say no.
49-24 winners over Utah, and this defense is nasty. 9 tackles for loss, 5 against the pass, 4 against the run, 4 sacks, 3 interceptions. basically throttled the ever-loving life out of their run. Micah Bernard had 11 carries for 20 yards, 1.82 yards per carry for one of the best running backs in the country. Isaac Wilson was just, I mean, he threw two touchdown passes, which is fine, but he had a rough day. Shador, 30 of 41, 318 yards, three touchdowns, interception. They did lose a couple of fumbles on the day. Shador did get strip sacked. And Will Shepherd, the usually really reliable receiver, he got strip fumbled as well. It was a high turnover game. There were about seven or eight altogether, but I mean, it just seems to be like that defense is a new animal now, right? That defensive line is breaking teams apart, and it's hiding maybe weaknesses that are hiding in the second two levels potentially at the moment. But if your D line keeps showing up, no one really cares. And I know this Utah team ain't great this year, but they're just putting teams to the sword every week. They do look damn good.
Yeah, the offensive line as well is getting a lot better. It
And
looks
it's
a lot better in
young.
recent weeks. Yeah, it's
I've,
young. It's getting better. It's a lot of freshmen and sophomores.
I think there's the left tackle's a freshman. I'm sure the new center's a freshman. I think there's at least two true freshmen in that team on the offensive line, which is crazy.
Yeah, they're really set up really well for the future.
Mm.
Whoever, like say, Jonas, whoever the next quarterback is that steps in, like say, might get the best of an offensive line because it'll be a year older. But yeah, like say, Preston Holmes has become one of the best corners in the country right now. He's
Mm.
just taking the ball away. It feels like weekly. So Colorado right now, yeah, on paper, I think they've got what 4 or 5 wins in a row. They are the best team in the Big 12 right now.
Mm. Their fate is in their own hands now. They just need to finish this out, and then yeah, they're in. As long as they're winning in now, that's where they're at. They keep this fate in their own hands. But yeah, the Big 12 is just so fascinating. Like I say, you've got Iowa State just hanging around on the periphery as well. They can still get in with the right result. They destroyed Cincinnati 34-17, but dropping down and having a look into a few of the other upsets now because some ranked teams did go down again this week. As the Kansas State was ranked 16 at the point here, so they're done. What was the big one? So obviously Georgia Tennessee was the big game this weekend, and we talk about how the SEC, like the playoff thing is becoming like SEC fans are whinging all over now, saying that Indiana, Army, teams like this shouldn't be in over their three-loss SEC team or two-loss SEC team. But the thing is, they're beating each other now, right? And with Tennessee losing in this game to Georgia, they now both become two-loss teams, and we just get this horrible feeling that they're almost trying to orchestrate this thing where they all drag one another in one after the other because you've got Texas State sorry, you've got Texas A&M at two losses, Bama at two losses, Tennessee at two losses, Georgia at two losses. You've got Texas who are at one loss right now, which is fine, but they've got to play Texas A&M, and I just have the horrible feeling they're going to lose that game, and they're all going to be two-loss teams. But for Georgia, I mean, Iamaleava came into this with a potential concussion, or he'd just been relieved of it. He didn't look his regular self. He was 20 of 33 for 151 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Dylan Simpson had himself a good day. He had a hundo and a touchdown. Carson Beck had one of his better days. He's under a lot of scrutiny at this moment in time, but he had five receivers over 50 yards on the day. They spread this thing around everywhere. We had a rare good game from Ben Urasek, the start Stanford tight end, who went there, but he threw for 346 yards on two touchdowns with 25 completions on 346 yards. Now, Tennessee threatened early in this one. This was a very competitive first half. They went 10-0 up in the first quarter, and you're thinking, maybe they've actually got something going here. Georgia just did not look good, but then they did get into a rhythm. They had two Oscar Delp touchdowns in the second quarter to put them 14-10 up. They did just get the lead again before the half, though, Tennessee. Dylan Sampson had a 27-yard, really good run from him. He is truly a great running back to make it 17-14 at the half. But then Tennessee didn't score again for the rest of the game. Georgia had a walk-off field goal to make it 17 all at the half, and then Tennessee's offense just went to sleep. Carson Beck had a rushing touchdown. Nate Frazier had a rushing touchdown. And Georgia slowly but surely took this one over and throttled whatever Tennessee were doing. I mean, that's an opportunity lost for Tennessee, right? You know, one of the only one-loss teams there. That championship game was theirs for the taking. You win this, you're probably in it. But now, with tiebreakers and all this over the place, it's going to be mental trying to get an SEC title game winner. If Texas lose to Texas A&M, because there'll be 6-2 lost teams. But big opportunity lost for them. But for Georgia, credit. They fought hard in the first half. They made their adjustments, and Tennessee had no answers for them in the second half.
Yeah, it's a boy did Carson Beck need this. Like you say, he was under a world of scrutiny. The last 3 weeks, like what was it, like 8 interceptions? He's had 11 on like the year, and he's thrown like 8 of them last 3 weeks. He looked rotten.
Yeah.
Like you say, good bounce back game for him. Like you say, and if things are struggling, you're struggling with the receivers, like struggling connections. Like you say, then what do? Go to the tight ends. Like you say, you go to Delp, you go to Yurisek, you go to your safety blankets. He did that in the second half. Safe pairs of hands, dinking and dunking. Like say, don't risk it, don't push it too far downfield if you don't have to. And it worked. Sign of a good coach, right? Says what they make adjustments at halftime. Bulldogs looked a completely different side coming out of half. Their defense suddenly found a bit of backbone. It got stingy. Like say, they were flying around, getting to the ball better. Their offense, like say, was moving the ball well, managing the clock. And I think the big thing with like say beating the Vols is you turn the crowd. Every time the cameras pan to the crowd in the second half, the Volunteers fans like they were ready to cry. Like they just knew, like say that all their mojo had gone for the first half. It felt like the atmosphere had been sucked out of the stadium, and their fans looked so unhappy, and the traveling Georgia fans looked delighted. And in the end, yeah, I suppose it wasn't like say a big win, but they just kind of smothered them, didn't they, in the second half and drew life out of them. Huge win for the Bulldogs, like I said. Massive loss for the Volunteers now. Like I say, with tiebreakers, they're going to need some serious help to make a title game. But depending on what happens with other games, they all are. It will all come down to tiebreakers now at this point. There is really no one that is safe.
No, and if these undefeated teams stay undefeated and throw themselves in there, there's going to be some SEC teams not making it when they probably thought they might be able to.
I would hate to have to be on the committee's job because whatever they do with the teams from 8 to 12, from like say 5 to 12 or 6 to 12, it will be wrong. It will be wrong. They will not get it right. And I don't think there will be a right answer.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be really interesting to see the direction they go. In terms of the SEC teams around that, a couple were off, but they're playing their sort of scrub non-cons at the moment. Texas A&M beat New Mexico State 38-3. Alabama beat Mercer 52-7. Texas did beat Arkansas 20-10. They threatened maybe a little bit in there. Our Arkansas team is not as bad as it has been made out to be this year. They just, it's a bit too late for them there. But there was one, let's say, much bigger shock in there this year, and their season was already over. We said Brian Kelly, Ryan, was on a little bit of a hot seat with, their 3-loss season, their playoff hopes dead. I mean, if that was a hot seat then, a loss to Billy Napier's Florida in the swamp, 27-16, that thing must be as hot as Satan's throne itself now at this point in time. I mean, where do you go from here with this? Florida, for all intents and purposes, Florida have looked good to end this year, and I would implore them to stick with Billy Napier like the Miami Hurricanes did with Cristobal. Everyone wanted Cristobal gone this time last year. Miami said, no, let's give him his time to try and get this system in, to try and get the right players in. All it took was Cam Ward, and they're flying now. Florida, right, it just feels like this is a bit more than a late season rally at this point. They're playing all their teams close. They've taken some big wins. And now this is still a big scalp for them, even though it's now 4-loss LSU. Their youngsters, DJ Lagway, 226 yards and a touchdown, didn't turn it over. Jaden Bohr, 65 yards on just 6 carries for him and a touchdown, running at nearly 11 yards to carry. You've got Elijah Badger, who you mentioned earlier. You know him very well. He had, what, maybe his breakout day for them, 131 yards and a touchdown. And that LSU defense has gone to sleep. Florida had 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks on Garrett Nussmeier, who must be feeling the effects of this game. I mean, they won the turnover battle, but by golly, this is just, I don't know. His seat is hot now, whereas Napier's might just be cooling a bit. This Florida team, I won't want to be playing them at the end of the year if I'm a ranked team trying to get to the playoffs.
No, they're definitely a banana skin now for anyone that's got anything meaningful coming up. It's no secret. It's no surprise that, like say, the director comes out and publicly backs Napier. Like say, he tells everyone, "We're not firing him. You can shut up, stop asking. It's not been a bad." And then they've looked better ever since. Almost like say, like uh, you need that sometimes. Billy probably needed that someone to come out and just back him. And like you say, a lot of their problems, like say, you've got is it Adrian Warner and DJ Lagway. So you've got two true freshman quarterbacks.
Mm.
Like, so you've lost Mertz, who was the if Mertz stays healthy, realistically, you never see these two kids for most of the year. And right say now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like so two inexperienced guys, injuries. Yeah, you're not struggling, but I say, but then you come into this week and yeah, people are saying, oh, it's LSU, but yeah, Garrett Nussmeier like turns the ball over a lot, but he's still a highly thought of, highly respected young player. LSU, like you said, still try to play for a good bowl game. So coming to the Swamp, they would have thought like they would have expected to win pretty comfortably. Like you say, Florida made life hell for them. Like you said, they
Yeah.
didn't show them any respect whatsoever. They went out there, put a great performance on. The fans as well. The Florida fans needed that. A good win at home, just to like say settle them down. And whatever they do now just means they start better next year on better footing. Like I say, they didn't want to leave the sour taste in the mouth and go into next year like with everyone still clamoring to get rid of him.
And
Like I
if
say,
you
a lot of really young, good players in Florida.
and they're flipping commitments as well for the positive, whilst as their rivals in state are hemorrhaging at the rate of one a day at this moment in
LSU,
time. So,
I don't know where the Tigers go from here. I
well, you
mean,
said Kelly should be fired, right, the other week, or he should be on a hot seat. So, I mean, this
I
has
said he
just
should be on
got
a hot
a
seat.
four losses
Now he's got to be on a real hot seat.
to not even be in the playoffs, let alone the top 20. They're not even in the top 25. They're not in consideration for the top 25. Like, that's a problem. Like, not been in the playoffs, just missing out, maybe you could forgive. Not been in the top 25 is just unthinkable for them, right?
They've been cast away completely. And it's a team like, don't get me wrong, like I say, lots of young players, lots of young talent, but you've got serious expectations.
And what do you
Like,
do at quarterback now? Do you keep with him?
I mean, it feels like, say, that they'll stick with Nussmeier because the season's nearly over. And obviously, if I'm Nussmeier, I have to get out of LSU. I don't know, I've got a feeling he'll go pro. I think a lot
Oof.
of scouts, like a lot of his talent, like I say, I'm not something, but yeah, what does LSU do at quarterback next? Who's next in line?
Hmm. It's a tough one. I mean, they do say he's had one season as a starter. They are recommending that guys have two now, especially what's happened with Anthony Richardson, etc. So maybe, just maybe, he'll stay another year and maybe you bring in a new guy, you blood a new guy up and get him ready for when he's gone potentially. So, you see with that one there, but that's a massive win for Florida, and I hope they stick with him. I do. Like, just give him one more year and you will reap the benefits like Miami have with Cristobal, hopefully, or at least, if that ends up going there this year. Then we had another ranked one in the SEC, and once again, maybe what could have been South Carolina, who are like a 9 point differential away from being a one-loss team, but this was I don't know why it was a ranked matchup with Missouri because Missouri don't deserve to be ranked, but South Carolina kind of dominating them from start to finish in this one. Miz did start with, they did get a couple of field goals to start with, but it always felt like this was going to be in South Carolina's hands in the first half. Miz had a really good third quarter. They had two unanswered touchdowns and a field goal. They had a 1 point lead, but then it gets down to 5 minutes left in the game, and this thing just breaks out all over the place. South Carolina get a touchdown with 5 minutes to go. Um, Missouri get a touchdown with 1 minute 10 to go. Luther Burden with a rare touchdown for him these days. They don't seem to come along too often. Puts Mizzou 30-27 up with just 1 minute 10 to go. But South Carolina, to their credit, they drive all the way down the field, and Lenoris Sellers finds Raheem Sanders, Rocket, the running back, out the backfield, 15-yard touchdown with 15 seconds to go. And South Carolina get this one 34-30. Lenoris Sellers, we talk about him as a running quarterback. This was his day in the air. 21 of 29, 354 yards and 5 touchdowns for him, and he spread them round. Nick Harbour, the 5-star plus athlete, got one. Jarrett Brown got one. Raheem Sanders got one. Michael Smith got one. Joshua Simon did. For Mizzou, Nate Noel had a great day. He had 150 yards and a touchdown. Brady Cook threw a pick. He had 226 yards and a touchdown there. But it's a fun one, right? Between two teams who are they're fighting for good bowl games now. They're not fighting for anything in the SEC, but South Carolina at the end of this season will be kicking themselves, especially that LSU game that they should have won and they threw away. And now seeing LSU as a four-loss team, you should have won that game, and potentially you could be right in the group above you at this point. But they will look on this as a good season. They've just got to, one, keep their players, and two, start next season like this, not start it after halfway.
Yeah, weird game. Like you say, it didn't feel like a ranked matchup. Didn't feel like two teams really that you felt like with the early rankings. And this game won't live long in South Carolina fans' memory, but for me, this was the real time we saw maybe the best of Lenoris Sellers. Like I say, because we saw as a true passer. Like I say, had a pretty much elite day through the air, and he's shown flashes, but they've relied a lot on his footwork and his leg work in recent weeks to try get over the line. And he's quite young, isn't he? Like I say, so a lot. I think he feels like he could be the future. Like I say, like they could be someone they lean on, and like what he does now between the end of the season and now could stand him in good stead next year. On the flip side, Missouri, I'm pretty sure Cook's gone.
Yeah.
Luther Burden's definitely going.
Oh, he's going in the portal somewhere.
Yeah, if not the draft, which I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it's a strong receiver class. I think
he could.
I could see Bird declaring. I'd say if them two go,
Nate Noel's done as well because he was at App State for years, so he's got to go this year.
In the Tigers' offense, like I say, whereas on the other side, like I say, we see some future. So this feels like two programs that are about to maybe fork in the road.
Yeah.
One for the better and one for the worse. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, they'll kick themselves what could have been this year. But I'm very interested to see now, if they can start next year better, if they can be competitive. Because I've seen enough now from Lenoris Sellers to feel like he's got something about him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of those intriguing prospects now. Like you're seeing the dual threat ability come out. You're not just a runner anymore. So it's kind of like KJ in his first year. He ran a lot and then he started throwing, and people are like, oh, maybe he could be good, or I did. But, it'd be interesting to see how they do next year now. You want them to start hot because it's just no good. This season means nothing if you come out next year and you just lose your first three SEC games and you're out of it quick. It means nothing at all. So, but well done for them. They've been a good team for the most part this year. Moving it on, we'll move down to the Big Ten now, and we nearly saw a shock from out of nowhere this week. The one team, like we talk every week about how teams look vulnerable, like there's ranked teams losing all over the place. The one consistent who's never really looked like losing is Oregon. And, they're on the road. to Wisconsin, and you're looking at this game and you're thinking, oh, that's kind of a they shouldn't be having too much trouble. They've been putting teams away like this all year, but boy, oh boy, did they sneak away from this one. Lucky to still have their unbeaten streak intact. Oregon 16, Wisconsin 13. And this Wisconsin defense came to play, man. 8 tackles for loss, 3 against the pass, 5 against the run, 2 sacks, an interception on the day. They won the turnover battle. In terms of, they did struggle against Jordan James, who's just been amazing this year, but they gave their team an opportunity to win. And coming into the fourth quarter, they were winning. So Oregon opened it up with a couple of field goals in the first quarter. Wisconsin then came roaring back in the second quarter. They got a field goal of their own. And just before the half, Braden Locke was able to find Will Pauling from 2 yards out. They ended it off and they ended up going into the half 10-6 up. They had a field goal to it with near most of the way through the third quarter to make it 13-6 going in to the fourth quarter. Now, Oregon eventually are able to break them down. Jordan James has his touchdown from 11 yards out. He's been a difference maker for them this year. And then Atticus Sappington gets a 24-yard field goal with 2 minutes 36 left to take the lead for Oregon. But Wisconsin still had 2 drives after this. They ended up getting turned over on downs. Then Oregon they tried a fake field goal. I don't understand why they did. They tried a fake field goal. It didn't work. Wisconsin had one more chance to win this thing, but Braden Locke threw a very ugly interception, and this one was over. And it's just like two weeks ago, right, when Nebraska should have beaten Ohio State. There's this clutch of Big 12, Big 10 teams, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, all these teams who have these big teams dead to rights and they can't finish them off. And it just gets so infuriating, right? Ohio State should not have beaten Nebraska. Oregon maybe should not have beaten Wisconsin. It's just Braden Locke is not that good of a quarterback, Ryan. And if they'd have had a Curtis Rourke, if they'd have had a oh God, who's the Minnesota guy again? Oh, what I mean. Who's the Minnesota quarterback? I keep losing.
Grosma.
Yeah, if they'd had a Max Brosmer or they had a Curtis Rourke, you feel like they probably won this game because they'd have had the arm talent to do so. But the defense does everything it can, keeps this high-scoring Oregon offense down to 16. They've not scored so few points since the first game in 2022. And Wisconsin let it slip, man. And it feels almost inevitable at this point that these teams just find ways to lose and will never, ever cause an upset again.
Well, to sum this game up, it cost the offensive coordinator his job. And then they fired him not long after. And that is the tail of their season. Defense, really good. Offense, Wisconsin, for most of the year, has been rubbish. And why? Because they didn't bother to go get a quarterback, did they? Graham Mertz walked out the door. What did they do to address it? Nothing. If you get a half-decent quarterback in Wisconsin, they beat Oregon. They beat a lot of other teams because, like I say, they've had some very good rushing performances. Like I say, sometimes this season, their defense is always stingy. Like I say, there's a lot of talent on that defense. Like I say, it's a team that it feels like it's the master of its own downfall. This time of year, like I say, they can't have Locke again next year. Go out there and get a quarterback. Like I say, go try Thomas Castellanos. Go get someone out of the portal and think, like I say, give you the new offensive coordinator, like I said, they hire a new one. Like I said, give him someone actually to work with, a young person to work. Who was the last good Wisconsin quarterback? None come to mind, do they?
No. You would have to go back to when they won the Big
You had
Ten.
Graham Mertz, like I say, with Braille and Allen, but Mertz, even Mertz.
Allen was that offense. Allen was that offense.
He was the offense. Like I say, Mertz was better. And I can't even think about who the Wisconsin quarterback was before Graham Mertz.
No, it's
just very forgettable.
Exactly. It's what you can say for most of these teams.
Like I say, Oregon, weren't good. like I say, dodged a bullet. But they did what BYU couldn't.
They
Like I
fa
say, didn't play well, but managed to find a way to win. And that's what
yeah.
the best teams do.
And that's their third. That's the third time they've trailed coming into the fourth quarter and won games this year. So,
Clutch.
that shows, yeah, clutch. Even
There's
if
a
you have,
reason Dan Lanning is getting this mythical, potentially rumored NFL interest.
yeah, like if you can have three bad quarters. All you need is a good fourth quarter, and that can erase the rest of a bad game. Dan Campbell says that himself. All you've got to do is be good. That was us against the Texans. We had one good quarter in the fourth quarter, and that's all you needed to erase the rest of the bad game. So,
As you alluded to earlier, it took the Big Ten front office 3 days to work out that Oregon had made the title game.
yeah.
Thought they were working out some like Penn State tiebreaker.
Yeah, they were,
It's
but
3 days. What for a supercomputer to tell you on a little ticket? Oh, Oregon have made it.
yeah, you think you'd work out the permutations before the weekend and then
When they win, yeah,
but apparently
yeah.
not. So,
Oregon are in. So now we just need to find their opponent, and
yes,
we'll know who that'll be this weekend, won't we?
we do. So, in terms of the other Big Ten games this week, so Ohio State put away Northwestern 31-7. Penn State murdered Purdue 49-10. In the ranked ones. Outside of that, let me just get down. I can't remember the other one. Also, Illinois beat Michigan State 38-16. They just continue to be confusing and all over the place. Rutgers beat Maryland. Rutgers have just come good again for some reason. Like, why did you have that 4 game stint off? You just confuse me so much. Rutgers. USC beat Nebraska 28-20. That was fairly good back and forth game there, but
Look, Nebraska.
yeah,
What's that? That's 4 losses in 5, and like I say, for the last I think 5 weeks, Raiola he's collapsed.
yeah, yeah. Matt Rule has got a lot to sort out there. Like I remember, which was the televised game they had? Was it when they pile drived someone at I can't remember who it was now. Was it Michigan? They beat Michigan this year. I think they did. They pile drived them, and they just look
Yeah,
so good. That defensive line just looks so
it
good.
was
But
the overtime loss one at Nebraska had
yeah, yeah, they just
to Colorado. The overtime loss to Colorado, and since then it's like 5 losses in a row,
and you
and
should have
Raiola
put
looks lost.
and you should have beaten Ohio State. Like there was just no excuse to not win that game, and you couldn't, and
Yeah,
that would have been
two
your
teams that can't wait for this season to end.
no. It's
Lincoln
yeah.
Riley won't be there next year. I've got a horrible feeling he'll somehow trip into the NFL.
Oh God, yeah, they just. I think next year that's got to be his final year. If you've got to get into the playoffs for one, and you've got to be competitive in the Big Ten because he's just not been competitive in the Pac. He's not been competitive in the Big. So you've really got to turn that round because there's a lot going on. In terms of the other Power Four conference, so we got the American SMU, more snuck by Boston College 38-28. They are still there. They're still winning games, so you've got to give them kudos to that. It was, as I say, you would expect them to win that by a little bit more, but this is getting into the stretch for them. They're unbeaten in conference. They're 9-1. This is getting to the point now where the playoffs are a real big possibility. The pressure just ramps up because nothing was ever expected of you. And now you're going forward trying to be the best that you can be. But Kevin Jennings is just, I mean, this whole offense is just humming. He had 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Brashard Smith had 120 yards and a touchdown. He's going at just under 7 yards per carry. Their main offensive weapons are flourishing. The defense is still doing well. They had 3 sacks and interception on the day. They did get gashed a little bit by the run. Grayson James, I actually realized he's the Florida International starter from last year. I don't know how the hell he's got there and how he's got that job because he wasn't that good at FIU, but he threw a pick. He had 208 yards and a touchdown on the day. But SMU kind of at the start of the third quarter, Boston College took the lead. Grayson James had a touchdown run for 20 yards, but then SMU got 2 quick scores. They had a touchdown and a field goal. They got a 10-point lead, and Boston College were just not able to quite get back to it. And SMU, with right at the end of the game on a 4th and 2, got a touchdown. Of course, they could have gone for the field goal, but it had been a one-score game. They'd have threatened to give Boston College a chance to get back into it. Fair play to them. They were just very brave. Kevin Jennings found Keyshawn Smith for 5 yards for a touchdown, and this SMU team have no fear, right? Like I said, they could have just done the easy thing, kick the field goal, but you leave the miracle play open, and we've seen enough miracle plays in the NFL and college recently. So you just thought, you know what? 4th and 2, we're going for it. We're going to put this game in our own hands. You get the touchdown, you get the win, and they continue to still surprise everybody at this point. Or maybe not surprise, but nobody can take them down because of just how aggressive they've been.
Yeah, they like to build good leads. They like to build a lead that they think their defense is capable enough of holding most weeks. They score quickly, score heavily, and score early. And yeah, aggressive. Like I say, I like how aggressive they are at times. And I agree. 4th and 2. At worst, you turn over on downs, you give them the entire field to go and try steal it. And if they score, well done, you deserved it. End it there and then, like I say, or give them a long field, like I say, you get the 4th down conversion, and like I say, the score then just kind of like saps all the momentum and energy that you could have got out of BC. So I agree. You try to kill the game there, and then you don't leave them hanging around. Yeah, right now, I can't see anywhere they don't make it unless they lose. I mean, yeah, unless they lose the title game.
Yeah, that would be the thing. I don't think 2 ACC teams are getting in.
I don't. Like I say that it's going to suck in it. Like I say that the loser of the ACC title game is probably not making the playoffs, and it could be 2 teams that have had just phenomenal years.
Yeah, absolutely. So SMU, their train carries on going. One train that is definitely over in the ACC. Louisville are done now. Lost on the road 38-35 at Stanford, who have not had the best of years. But in terms of a game, incredibly fun. So Stanford took a 13-7 lead early on. Then Louisville had 3 straight scores to go 28-13 up. Then they exchanged scores. Louisville are up 35-21 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, sorry. And I mean, you've got to give credit to Stanford here. 3 touchdowns in a row. The first with 6:30 to go. Their 4th and goal at the Louisville 4, down 14. They go for it. Ashton Daniels passed to Emmett Mosley for the touchdown. With 45 seconds to go, 4th and 1 at the Louisville 25. Another 4th down conversion. They bring in the backup quarterback. Justin Lampson finds Emmett Mosley for a 25-yard touchdown. So 2 clutch 4th down touchdowns for Mosley. And then they're able to turn over quickly after that. And they get a field goal to end the game. It's a walk-off field goal because at this point it's 35 all. And they're able to get the turnover. They're able to walk it off on the field. It's a downs, situation. Louisville get desperate. They give it over on downs. 2 plays, 21 yards for Syracuse to get in field goal range. And Emmett Keeney drops it in from 52 yards to win this. I mean, you talk about implosions. 2 scores up with 9 minutes to go. The full 14 points up with 9 minutes to go. You allow 2 touchdowns on 4th downs. And then you turn over on downs going for the win, and you can't make 2 defensive stops to take it to overtime, and you have a 52-yarder drilled on you. I mean, for Louisville, that's kind of been the state of their season. It's been okay, but it's just also not been good either. And, fair play to Stanford. That far down, their season's done. They've not got that much to play for. That is a heck of a resilient fight back from them. And clutch from the kicker to win it. And Louisville now, they're just, everything's done. See what bowl game you can get, but that's it, folks.
Yeah. Like I said, they've had one of the best receivers in the nation in Ja'Cory Brooks, one of the best quarterbacks in Tyler Shook, some of the better skill players in the country. They've scored a lot of points. They've racked up a lot of yards. But it's not like you didn't feel like you had faith in them, did you? When it come down to it, like, did ever really deliver in the end? And in the end, yeah, situational downs, like I say, awareness, let them down. Like I say, you've got a big lead. Like you say, realistically, you should be able to see that out fairly comfortably. Like you say, you should be able to manage the clock, but like I say, bad play calls, rushes, poor execution. In the end, like I say, the fact that you can give Stanford a chance, like I say, turnaround downs, and yeah, Stanford a team. I suppose in the decade we're in right now, last 4.5 years to Stanford, have been bad. I think it's all been bad. Now, to be honest, like they've been very tumultuous on and off the field. Their football's not been good. But even like say the lesser side, if you give them an opportunity like that and you give them encouragement to come and attack you and try to cause the upset, they're very capable of doing it. So you can't underestimate them at all and give them an inch because they'll take a mile. So yeah, great win for Stanford. Like I said, I'd like to see that program get back to where it was in recent years because it's a huge school. It's a huge footballing program. It shouldn't be as bad as it is. And
No,
Louisville, yeah, Louisville will continue in recent next couple of years to be the bridesmaid, never be the
yeah.
bride. Probably be really good, score a lot of points, but no, unless something changes or like I say, it brings some new players, I can't see them really in the playoff mix anytime soon.
No, unfortunately not. What could have been for Louisville indeed, and also what could have been for Pittsburgh. Like a month ago, we were talking about this team that were ferocious, both sides of the trenches. They look great. They got some big wins under their belt, and then SMU literally and physically broke them, and they were at home to Clemson this week, just gone. And you know what? In fairness to them, they fought really hard. Clemson was 17-7 up at the half. And you're thinking, okay, yeah, this one's kind of a bit done. Antonio Williams was going crazy in this game for Clemson. He'd had two big touchdowns. Kate Klubnik looked really good. But then Pitt fought back. There were no points in the third quarter. So you're going into the fourth quarter, they're down 17-7. They get a field goal to start with. Then Nate Yarnell finds Gavin Bartholomew for the touchdown pass. Then another field goal. And with 1 minute 36 left in the game, they've turned it round and they're beating Clemson by 3. And then the hurry up comes for Clemson, and Cade Klubnik bursts out a 50-yard touchdown run. Pretty sure that's got to be a record for him because you don't see that very often. And right, this is the sign of, when your season's over and when you've lost a few and, it's you work so hard. The fight's still there in Pittsburgh. You can see it. They're playing well, they're fighting hard, but the spirit that got them to where they are is broken. And that Klubnik run was just kind of, it just showed you what it was all about. 50 yards, you let the quarterback go. You fought so hard to get back in the game. You've got 90 seconds to see it out, and you can't even go 20 without giving the lead back. It's just such a shame for what could have been for them. But for Cade, he continues to fight, and that's a good win for Clemson. And, they're at least not ending the season with a whimper.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, yeah, it just feels like a little string appeared and each team they played kind of just tugged on it. The season's unraveled, hasn't it, unfortunately? And that is a real shame to see that what could have been so much for them, a potential playoff caliber year, has kind of just will now whimper out. And on the flip side for the Tigers, yeah, like you say, Dabo proves that, like you say, he is not washed up. His team is not past its sell by date. They are still here. They are still a force to be reckoned with. And Cade Klubnik, I said it last year. I'll say it again this year. Maybe next year we see the best of him. I still think it's in his best interest to stay in Clemson. But I say he may not. I've got a feeling if Cade hit the portal, he could probably have any team he wanted. I think he's got a really big decision to make this season.
How funny would it be if he went to Florida State? Just to really wind Ash up the ex quarterbacks. Like they've just been scarred by DJU.
I mean, honestly, if I'd be delighted. I think that'd be a great pickup for Florida State. I mean, it's definitely not going to happen because I don't think he'd do it. But I don't know. Look at some of the SEC schools. Would they have
Yeah.
interest in Nick, former 5-star? I think they would.
Oh God, yeah. There'd be no question as to there'd be interest there for sure. I think maybe it might be a bit too soon for some of them though, given how certain things have gone on regarding. Yeah. Anywho, so other ones in the ACC, Syracuse beat Cal 33-25. They just continue to be confusing this year as well. So who knows what the hell you're going to get with them at this point. And UNC beat Wake Forest. Those two teams' seasons were over a long time ago. In terms of other ranked games we've not mentioned yet, Notre Dame put Virginia to the sword. Virginia looked awful, and Notre Dame forced a ton of turnovers against them. Boise State continue their crusade, 42-21 winners over San Jose
It started
State.
badly though.
And
That first half.
yes, they were level at the half, were they not? San Jose didn't get
Yeah.
any points in the second half, I believe. Another one of those, and Ashton took his time to get going, but he's still rocking them out, man. They look great. It's going to be fun to see where they're going. I tell you one team who is doing incredibly well this year, considering where they've been in past years, because another ranked team fell this week, and no one's really talked about this, and maybe not because given where these two teams are, but Washington State were a one-loss team going into this week, and actually they've been flying under the radar. Not, they would never have been a playoff team ever because of their strength of schedule. They've not got a major victory on there, but 8-1 represented a very good season for them. But they've come up against the New Mexico Lobos, the New Mexico team who have been awful in recent years, and they lost. It was on the road, but it was a big shootout, 38-35 win in this one, and this is two very good quarterbacks in this one, right? So John Mattia for Washington State, 25 of 36, 367 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 8 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. So a 5 touchdown day for him. But I'm telling you now, we talked about him earlier in the year. Devin Dampier down at New Mexico is a legitimate dual threat quarterback. You're thinking New Mexico State just had Diego Pavia recently. This may be their iteration of him. He was 11 of 25 for 174 yards and a touchdown as a passer. As a rusher, 28 carries, 193 yards and 3 touchdowns for him, and they still had another 100-yard rusher on the day. Eli Sanders had 13 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown, going at a meager 8.3 yards per carry. And there was over 1,100 yards of offense in this, Ryan. But this New Mexico team they've not been good, flat out, not been good for years now. New Mexico State trumped them, went above them, nearly won the CUSA. They're about to go bowling this year, potentially. 2 opportunities to go, but to go toe-to-toe with a former power school in Washington State with a deadly dual threat quarterback and to come out on top against them, playing their own game, they've low-key had a really good season, and they're setting themselves a foundation if they can hang on to their talent going forward.
Yeah. Like I say, recent years, they've been the little brother, aren't they? To stay, it feels like they've lived in their shadow.
They were awful under Danny Gonzalez.
Yeah, like I say, he was a terrible hire. He set the program back a long way. And yeah, this Washington State team, like I say, with John Mattia, one of the best sophomore quarterbacks in the whole country, he's been phenomenal this year. To get into a shootout against the Cougs, most teams would come out on the wrong side of it. Like I say, they have put away a lot of good sides, not great sides, but have done it very comfortably. And he's had a great year that not a lot of guys talk about. Like I say, Dampier, like I say, incredibly talented quarterback, fits really well in their offense. He can command everything they want to do.
I really like him.
I don't think he's going to. If I were him, honestly, I don't think he's going to stay.
If I were both of them,
I think the tampering will start soon.
Mattia should leave Washington State. You say he's a sophomore, right?
He is, yeah.
He should leave Washington State and go to a team that can get to the playoffs. Dampier should probably go to Washington State and replace him because they're the exact same type of quarterback in how they play the game. They are deadly rushers who do a lot of running, but they are good with the ball as well. And Dampier, I think, would fit in with the air raid over there. But those are two.
Like you say, Washington State, like you say, it's homeless right now, isn't it? Like you say, essentially. So there's no route for Mattia to do anything there. So if he's going to use like his last level of eligibility, unfortunately, I feel like he needs to leave.
Yeah, absolutely they do. So if you like your quarterbacks, John Mattia and Devin Dampier are two names you really need to keep an ear out for, especially if you see them hit the portal this year. As far as New Mexico go, I want him to stay for that, but I would like to see him on a bigger stage as well. But that was an absolutely tremendous win for them. So you've got to give them props for that. Because again, a lot of ranked teams just fell again this week. Tulane were the other ranked team. They trifled Navy. That one's over now. We've got our. We'll talk about the state of the conferences in a minute, but Navy's season came to a bit of a humiliating end there. Tulane, that's going to be fun. Army, Tulane, looking forward to that one there. There were some big upsets, Neil, this week. UMass, poor Don Brown at UMass, nearly beat Liberty this week. It was 35-34 in overtime because Liberty went for a two-pointer and got it. But I mean, Liberty. I mean, how big a
Not
step
looked
back have
good
Liberty
recently.
taken this year? I mean, I guess they're due, right? They've been that good that regression was expected at some point, but they've regressed quite a bit this year. Caden Salter, no one talking about him anymore. You notice that there was a lot of buzz preseason, like him and Joey Aguiar. A lot of chatter about them two start of the year, both fallen right off. So you had. Yeah, that had your losses there. Let's just quickly go through the pick watch ones we had, which we've not talked about. You were one of many who finished at the top this week. You got seven, so you had a pretty decent week, all things considered. Although you need to have an absolute standout week going into the last two to pull back on Paul. Oh God, where were we? So, oh yeah, on one of the earlier games in the week, Washington destroyed UCLA. You called that. Will Rogers finally having Will Rogers is done this year, right? Like they can't have any more time left.
Yeah,
So
I think he's a super senior.
yeah, so
I don't
yeah,
like his pro prospects either.
no,
He's had one of the best careers statistically that I've seen in a long time, but I
yeah,
still don't think it makes. I say it's been all air raid.
yeah,
He's very one
absolutely,
dimensional.
absolutely. Tennessee and Georgia, we picked that correctly. Clemson, we both picked. Oh damn it, I picked Kansas State just because in case they lost. So you got me with that one there. Oh yeah, I know there's a bone to pick round here with you because Iowa State, you've ruined for me. Last week, you went, oh, the Baylor Bears are going to absolutely wreck West Virginia, my other favorite team in the Big 12. And what did they do? They went and dropped 49 on them. Damn Sawyer Robertson
Claire
had.
Robertson, he's a guy to watch out for next year.
He did as well. And we took the lead in this one. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to do well here. I mean, it was. It was a bit hit and miss. We got it to 28-21, and then Baylor just really sort of 35-28, and then Baylor just pulled away in the fourth quarter. Just could not keep up with them. Another game that exceeded 1,000 yards there. But yeah, you mentioned it, didn't you? Sawyer Robertson, damn him, ended West Virginia's season now for good.
Yeah, like you say, it was a to and fro kind of game, but yeah, later on, I suppose they just found a second wind, and it kind of just sums up West Virginia's season. They've looked
Yeah,
really promising to start a lot of games through two, 3 quarters, but they kind of just fizzle out.
yeah.
I had super high hopes for Garrett Green at the start of this year, but
That
I
shoulder
don't
injury,
know.
that shoulder injury killed him. When they were he got a shoulder injury against, I want to say, was it BYU when they played BYU and lost? But yeah, he was out for a couple of games. He's just not looked the same. I think he's playing hurt. I mean, he was a good rusher in this. He had like two rushing touchdowns, had over 100 yards. So, but yeah, the injury killed it. It was just at the wrong time, and I think it's really knocked him there. We both picked Temple beating Florida Atlantic, but they both lost because both the head coaches went. You picked Tulane beating Navy. I mean, that was just a non-contest. I picked UTSA beating North Texas. They twonked them. So I got back on. Arkansas State beat Georgia State, which we got. And then maybe we should have looked at this, but Hawaii at Utah State, and we kind of went mini viral on TikTok for that because we made our predictions for it and said Hawaii were going to win. Didn't realize, and I should have because I watched Ryan Hall and the Weather Channel's over there. There's a big ass blizzard going around that part of the country at this moment in time, and this place was decimated by snow. Hawaii don't play in snow, and it shows because they got absolutely walloped 52-3 and just made us look silly, right? We're not going to make that mistake again, are we?
No. Well, yeah, I probably might have gone different. I probably wouldn't have backed the Rainbow Warriors, and I can't imagine they're used to the cold.
No, no, not at all. Any other games you want to mention from that before we take a little look ahead? Because we're going to obviously look at the state of the conferences now and where we're at with those.
No, it was a pretty routine week. Like I said,
Yeah,
there wasn't anything major happened.
there's a lot of non-con stuff going on, and that it's where some of the Americans and the American and the SEC love having end of season non-cons. So it kind of blows things out there a little bit. But we're gonna go now and just take a look at the state of the conferences and the permutations and what is needed going into the remaining weeks. So in terms of the American, um, this is actually really interesting at this point. So we've got basically a three-way tie at this point to win it all. So Clemson have finished out their American season now. They've got a non-con game this week, and they've got South Carolina after next. At the top is SMU on 6-0. Next up, you've got Clemson on 7-1, and then you've got Miami of Florida on 5-1. So Miami to end the season have still got to get past Wake Forest and Syracuse. I don't know how the tiebreakers work here for this currently. For SMU, they have just the one, I believe, left. They've got to play. No, they've got two, sorry. They got Virginia and California. So Virginia seem to have kind of given up on the season. That Cal game could be tricky because Cal have pretty much played everyone close this year. What's the vibe you're getting at this point? I mean, I guess if SMU win one more, that's probably it. Mind you, they'd all be one loss potentially. So if Miami win out and SMU lose one, they're all 7-1. But this is a three-horse race now. Who do you fancy to see this one out?
The Syracuse against Miami will probably be like a 70-point ding dong. That's how Syracuse have been all year, aren't they? Like say, Cal McCord,
Mm.
like say, where is that game?
It is
In their
at
little dome.
Syracuse, so that's the last one of the year. It's at the Wireless Dome, which I believe is Syracuse.
Syracuse, yeah. So it's going to be indoors. So yeah, it's going to be perfect conditions. Honestly, I think I'd like the Orange to potentially cause an upset there. I could see that, and that crucify Miami. Like you say, Cal. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that every Cal game that they've lost has been by like less than 4.5 points or something stupid. Like
Their first four losses was by combined 9 points.
yeah, like if you flip all their results, they're basically like an 8-2 team because
Mm.
like, every loss has been by one score. So yeah, the Cal game is very wary. But like you say, Miami will destroy Wake Forest. Virginia should get rolled over by SMU. So for me, it's going to be SMU Clemson.
Yeah. I would love it to be Miami, but yeah, Clemson have just sort of snuck in there, right? It's I think everyone stopped caring
They've gone
about them
under the
after the
radar
Georgia
because they've
game
just yeah,
because
they've gone
Georgia
about their business.
because Georgia humiliated them that bad that everyone seems to have forgotten that they exist. But yeah, it's still an enticing three-way there, but it's in SMU's hands for now. Next up, we've got the Big 12, and I mean this could be all manner of clusters. So you've got four teams in it here: BYU and Colorado are 6-1, and then you've got Iowa State and Arizona State behind at 5-2. So depending on the permutations, all of them can win, but they've all still got. So they've played seven each. They've all got one game left to go in terms of their Big 12 aspirations. So obviously, you guys play each other this weekend.
Yep.
So that
The
will
the
be,
loser of BYU and Arizona State is out.
yeah, because of that. And then you've got Colorado. The Buffs have Kansas and Oklahoma State to go on theirs.
The Oklahoma State, if I'm right, are Oklahoma State the only winless team in FBS and conference?
I
I
think
think they might be. They are
so.
0-8.
Oh, sorry, they've all got two games left because you're Arizona. You're still,
We've got
yeah.
Territorial Cup still, yeah.
So you've got, so Colorado have got Kansas, Oklahoma State. You've got Arizona. I mean, you don't want to play Arizona right now, right? Um, that's not a good place to play. Iowa State, let me just check on them and how they finish their season. Not that
Colorado are as
one.
good as in. Colorado will beat. They'll get past them too. I think Colorado have got 1 foot in.
So Iowa State have got Utah and Kansas State.
That
So
oh, I think they've got the worst 2 games.
mm,
That's the hardest run.
oh, what BYU and Arizona are, so Arizona could really influence what's going to go. They play Colorado this week and you the next, and they've already ended two teams' participation in this. So I feel like they're the team nobody wants to play at this
I
moment
think
in time. But
I've seen the flaws in BYU. I think BYU are naff. Like I
oh
say,
well.
Retzlaff very overrated.
Well, that answers a question we're going to ask later on then.
Oh
So,
yeah,
what do you
we've
reckon?
got
This is Do you reckon this is
ass whooping.
Dion versus Dilly? Do we
Yeah,
reckon?
yep.
Oh, love it, love it. I just want Iowa State to stay in it for one more week because I did predict them to get there, and I want them to get close to make sure at least one of my predictions is, in any way, sense or form, good this year. But the Big 12 is just as exciting as we
I think
predicted it was
Colorado is
going to
winning
be.
the Big 12. Whoever gets the title game, Colorado's winning.
I mean, let's just put it this way. Your three teams were all, I'm pretty sure, ranked to finish in the bottom five. Colorado were, BYU were, Arizona State were. And then you look at the bottom, it's Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona, and UCF. And I'm pretty sure they were four of the top 5 or 6 teams this year.
Yeah,
So
can't
the
believe
Big
the
12 has
Cowboys are
flipped.
0-8.
I know he's got to be in some trouble now, right?
Gundy, I say, yeah. I know
But
they've had a lot of injuries, but
he's been there a long time. I don't think they'd disrespect him by firing him
no,
mid-season. But I
they
think
won't get rid of him. But he starts next year on one of the hottest seats in the country. They have to be
does.
the worst. They've got to be the worst team that's moved in the country.
Absolutely.
They've been dreadful.
Absolutely, indeed, they do. So moving on to the Big Ten title aspirations here, and we've got
Pretty
four
straightforward, this.
teams. We've got, well, so Oregon are in. It's weird because they're still ranked second in the conference behind Indiana, but they're already there because they've played their 8 games. And I think they've got tiebreakers on everyone. No,
Yeah.
they've all got one game left, haven't they? They play 8 conference games, don't they, in these? So, or is it 9? I can't remember. Let's just check the remaining schedules for them. So, for Indiana, obviously the big one this week is coming up against Ohio State. It's very well regarded. They have the
The losers out.
106th.
The losers out, aren't they?
Oh yeah, because Ohio State are a two-loss team then, and Indiana, no way. Well, they'd have the loss to Ohio State, and they can't overcome. They won't be able to overcome Oregon.
Yeah, the
So
head-to-head would go over.
no.
Yeah.
But they've got Purdue last week, Indiana have. So if you do the unthinkable and you're able to win this week, then you've got pretty much the
Then they're
game
in.
you'd want
Yeah,
to
they will
end
rattle
the
for
year
Purdue.
there. Obviously, Ohio State have the game to end the year as well. And then for Penn State, you are in a situation where you've got Minnesota this week and Maryland the next. And Minnesota, I don't want to jinx them because Mile Marker will hate us, but they're not a bad team. They're a
No,
pretty good team.
they're
And
difficult.
Maryland have hit form recently. Like they've been putting some points down recently. That's not easy, but of course, for Penn State, it all relies on Ohio State losing out because Ohio
Yeah,
State have the tiebreaker on them, and then they need Indiana to lose out as well. So, I
yeah,
mean,
that's not happening.
we'll talk about the big game currently, but this is the competition we want, right? We've got a proper dark horse in there, and then the Oregon. I don't know if they. Well, they were expected to do well, but
Yeah.
I like the balance it has. I don't want to talk too much about Indiana yet, because I want to discuss that later when we talk about the previews. But the Big Ten is very much still wide open for that second spot to get in there. Um, let's do the other power one first, and then we can do the others. So the SEC. Now, this is just crazy. So actually, oh, I didn't realize there's only oh, in terms of the season. Yeah, we've got one, two, three, four, five. We've got five two-loss teams, a one-loss team. But in terms of getting to the title game, Texas and Texas A&M are both 5-1. Georgia are 6-2. Tennessee are 5-2. And then you've got Ole Miss and Alabama at 4-2. Now, I think they're all out. I think this comes down to Tennessee, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Texas at this point. Now, you've got the rivalry game to end the year between the two Texas sides. For Georgia, your end of season is you've got UMass this week, and then you've got Georgia Tech next week. So actually, Georgia's SEC season is
It's
over. Hang
over.
on, let me just get back in there. So they've played eight. Oh, they all play eight because they're all playing non-cons at this moment in time. So they need, who've they beaten? Have Georgia beaten Texas? Georgia, oh, I want to say Georgia beat Texas, or was it the other way around?
Mm,
This is this is
no, didn't
where
Texas? I thought Texas beat Georgia.
Texas did beat Georgia, I think. Hang on, we need to get back into this. The permutations are too far range. So Texas actually have two games left. They've got Kentucky and Texas A&M. Why have they got more non-con games than, or is this just done wrong? Georgia have played eight so far. Oh, they've only played six, that's why. So they're two games behind. So Texas's run is Kentucky away and then A&M at home, is it? Or is it at College Station? Kyle Field is Texas. So you need to win one of those. Or in fact, you need to win both. Otherwise,
Oh,
Georgia overtake you. For Texas A&M, they've got Auburn this week at home, and then they're on the road to Texas. And
so they
then,
have to win out, or they lose the head-to-head to Texas.
yeah,
So Texas and A&M both have to win out. If they lose one of them,
and then the Volunteers, Tennessee, they have UTEP and they've got Vanderbilt still to go. So they can only win
then they
one
need Georgia to
more.
lose, don't they? Because they've now
So
lost the head-to-head with Georgia.
they need Texas A&M and Texas to both lose out and be three-loss teams and then win against Vanderbilt because they can't overtake Georgia. So they've got to
No.
overtake Texas and Texas A&M. So they need one team to lose this week and then the other team that loses this week to win the rivalry game next week. So it kind of feels this is down to the two Texases
This is three
and
teams,
and
two
Georgia.
spots. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like that there. So I mean, for A&M, they should beat
Well,
Auburn,
Ole
and
Miss, I suppose, still have to be in it, don't they?
they're 4-2. They've got six games. So
They've still got two SEC games.
Old Miss's end of season is, let's
So
just
Ole
check
Miss
in.
have the head-to-head over Georgia, so they need A&M or Texas to lose out as well, don't
They're playing Florida and Miss State.
they? Ooh, that's
So
quite difficult.
Florida is, Miss State not so. So, I mean, they are on the precipice. I mean, I guess that does put Alabama into the whole fold as well, because they're 4-2. They finish off against Oklahoma and Auburn. So that's potentially two wins for there. But then who have Alabama lost against? They've lost against Vandy. They've lost against Tennessee. They've lost. This is just a massive cluster because they've all lost a couple of games. But you do get the feeling one of the Texas sides is going right because they're going to win
Yeah,
a minimum of one more and they're going to knock the other one out of
they're going to knock the other
contention.
one out. I've got a feeling with you. I say A&M beat the Longhorns. I think A&M's making the title game.
See, what did I have as my SEC title game? Was it Tennessee versus A&M?
I
So
had Ole Miss.
actually,
I think I had A&M the Ole Miss.
so I just want to say my Texas A&M
I don't think that
Tennessee,
can happen now.
yeah, my Texas A&M Tennessee title game is not actually as stupid as it may make out to be. It's like they could be pretty close. Damn Tennessee. If they'd have beaten Georgia this week, they could have been in, and I could have had my Tamu Tennessee game, and I would have been the best predictor of all time with that. So that's crazy. Brent goes Kentucky at home is dangerous.
That's
Absolutely.
difficult. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, Malcolm mentions the Gophers have Penn State. I want Minnesota to beat Penn State. Go beat them. Go put them out of the misery. Give Max Brosmer a big signature win there in his first year. Right, let's move it down to the group of 5-1s when I get back to where I'm at. So the CUSA is really interesting this year. So we come back to it in the preview later, but the top four teams basically all playing each other this week, and they can all still bet this. So you've got Jacksonville State at 6-0, Sam Houston and Western Kentucky at 5-1, and you've got Liberty at 4-2. But I do believe Liberty have lost to Western Kentucky and Jacksonville, so I think their
yeah.
chances are just about over. This is a big week because, oh no, Liberty play Western Kentucky this week at home, so they can overcome them. And then Sam Houston are at Jacksonville State. So this is a four-way shootout here in the USA. This is a lot more
The losers
competitive.
this weekend are as good as out, but the
Yeah.
winners,
Oh yeah, Liberty have done. Liberty have got to win out. For the rest, Jacksonville State can afford one slip up, but if Sam Houston win, they're behind them on the tiebreaker. So that knocks them
Jacksonville State
down.
win, they've got 1 foot in.
Yeah. Oh, Jacksonville State will be in with a
They'd
win
be in,
because
wouldn't they?
everyone else can't. But I mean, that's a lot more competitive than it was last year, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, it's not felt competitive in recent years. Like you say, a little bit, like you say, Western Kentucky have kind of had a stranglehold. I almost
Yep.
feel like you say, so the Bearcats and like say, Gamecocks adding new blood to that conference, like I say, it's been a breath of fresh air. Like I say, and
Absolutely.
the numbers that Rich Rodriguez is rushing offense have put up this year are just astounding.
Insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane. You've got to credit him with what he's done there to get them up and competitive so quickly. And speaking of competitive, that brings us to the MAC, and we have a three-way tie at the top of the MAC at the moment. Ohio, 5-1, Bowling Green, 5-1, Miami of Ohio, 5-1, and obviously Ohio with their big win over Toledo the other day. I don't know if that's been factored into the system yet. They've got one game to go. They've got to play Ball State. In terms of the other one, the 29th of
Can
November.
pencil that winning.
And you know who's playing next week, Rye? 29th on the Friday. Miami of Ohio against Bowling Green. So that is going to
Can't lose.
decide.
Yep, can't lose.
That's win and in. There's just one game left for all of them by the looks of it. I think they are out of it when they're done. So they're on bye this week, which is a really nice bye for them. So I mean, essentially, Ohio must already be in now then because they both can't win.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because Ohio literally played at midnight last night and
Hang
got a good
on.
big win. I
We've
think they're in.
No, Miami of Ohio have the tiebreaker over Ohio. So, looking at this, if they finish on the same, so I think they're just ahead at the minute on strength of schedule, or whatever. If Bowling Green beat Miami of Ohio and Ohio lose as well, then Miami of Ohio can still do it. But it does feel like it's in Ohio's favor and they're playing Ball State. But again,
Yeah.
uber competitive and teams in Ohio and Bowling Green we've not seen up there recently.
No, like I say, the Red Hawks in recent years have, like I say, been and Toledo have kind of been tussling for that power share in recent years. So we've not seen like, but we haven't seen Bowling Green for well, what feels like decades to be relevant. Like I say,
No.
now you got the Bobcats, like you say, with a strong leadership, good player. Yeah. And like I say, I watched the highlights from the action, like I say, this week. So, like I say, Miami and Ohio both put in dominant performances.
Yeah,
Like I
they
said, they
did.
both swept up. They both swept away both their teams. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out.
Yeah, having the midnight action, having the midnight action and the CUSA has been really good for it all this year.
Poor Kent State.
Oh no, they've kind of been a bit of a
Dunked on
joke this
by
year, haven't they?
Akron.
Yeah, that is rough. So you've got to give. Oh, bless them. So next up, we've got the Mountain West, and this is a three-way shootout as well, and not between who you think it might be. So they've got 7 games on their schedule here. You've got Boise State at 6-0 in conference, Colorado State. Jay Norvell has them at 5-0 in conference, and then you've got UNLV sat there at 4-1. Now, of course. Boise are in because they've beaten UNLV. That's their one loss there. So this is a shootout, really, between Colorado State, UNLV. Boise end the season against Wyoming. For all intents and purposes, they're 2-4. They're 2-8 on the season. They're not doing very good. So UNLV need to hope for a Colorado State loss here. So UNLV have got to play San Jose State and Nevada. And they're both
Oh,
two tough games there. They've
San
got to
Jose State,
go
like I say, first half against Boise. They were
good.
all over them.
And they've got to go to Nevada, who've been very good this year as well, even if the record doesn't suggest it. Colorado State have got Fresno State at home, and they've not been good this year.
Been
And then
mid.
they've got Utah State on the road. But of course, Utah State have just twonked Hawaii. But Colorado's good at dealing with the snow. So, I mean, you look at that and you do have to say advantage Colorado State
Yeah.
to get in this one
UNLV's last
here.
2 games are very awkward.
And
I'd hate them too.
and they've got
And they need to win out. Yeah.
the crazy part is they've got 2 Power 5 wins this year, and they might not even make their own conference title game because of one loss. Like just one loss against Boise, and that's it, done. That feels cruel. It's been a rotten schedule for UNLV, in fairness.
Yep. Like you say, they've done all the hard work out of conference to put themselves in a. Like you say, it's almost like a playoff place, as like we say, was put ahead of a conference championship berth. They did
Yeah,
all their hard work at conference, but in conference, one loss, and they're going to end up with nothing.
yeah. Crazy. And of course, they can't play Colorado State to force the tiebreaker in their own hands. That's what happens with bigger conferences. So it's absolutely mad. So it's between Colorado State and UNLV, and it's very much in Colorado State's hands there in the Mountain West. And you got to figure if it is Colorado State who get there, I won't write them off entirely, but you kind of got to figure that Boise are
Jan
going
is
to have a
just
better
gonna.
chance.
Ashton's just gonna run wild. Yeah.
Boise are going to have a better chance against Colorado State than UNLV probably, but we will
Yeah.
see
I
with
know
that.
which game I want, but
Oh yeah, we want the rematch
we want a rematch. But it just feels
because
unlikely.
UNLV now have Haj Malik Williams is now integrated into that system. They had to change quarterback mid-season because he quit on them. And now he's going again now. So, but it's crazy. 2 Power 5 wins, and they nearly beat Syracuse as well. They could have had 3 Power 5 wins and not even be in their own championship game. That is mad. Sun Belt up next, and this one still not dead at this point in time. So you've got in the East Marshall atop on 5-1. You've got James Madison on 4-2. Georgia Southern on 4-2. So for Marshall, this is in their own hands to get to the title game. They've got to play Old Dominion, and then they've got to play James Madison on the last game of the year. So if they both win this week, James Madison could overtake them on the
Shootout.
head-to-head. So you can't slip up. You've got to get to the end for that one. For Georgia Southern, I think their record is that they're not going to be able to. I think they've lost to both of these teams. So I think their participation is going to, they'd have to lose out both of them to be able to get in. But at least it's been a bit of a renaissance for them this year. They finished with Coastal Carolina and
Like
App
they can't lose
State.
out, can they? Because they play each other.
Oh yeah, Coastal Carolina and App State have that's a rough end for Georgia Southern as well. So you figure their chances are buff, but we'll see with that. And then when it comes to the West, we talked about Louisiana the other week. They were top. They had their destination in their own hands, but they lost the weekend just gone. Of course, the curse on them as always. They're 5-1. Texas State are 4-2. Arkansas State are 4-2. So for Louisiana, it's win and in for them. But if I remember rightly, their schedule is a little bit tough. They've got to play Troy this week, and they've got to play Louisiana Monroe next week, who've had their bit of a renaissance this year. For Texas State, they play Georgia State and South Alabama. And then you've got Arkansas State. I mean, what a story that'd be for Butch Jones and co. if they could make the Sun Belt title game. You've got them. They're at Louisiana Monroe this week, and they've got Old Dominion the week after. So that's not in their
I
hands.
don't think any of them really have an advantage, do they? They've both got, all three of them have got two difficult games.
And they're not playing each other. So Louisiana has the opportunity. They just need really to win one, and they'll be all
Yeah.
right. You figure. But I mean, Butch Jones, that's a big story. You got to look at that one and see what's going on. But Texas State were massive favorites to win it. Kinney
Yeah.
will be desperate. So
They're fizzled out, somewhat rotten.
Louisiana are under a ton of pressure now. Like they've lost one finally, and just thinking this might be their season. It might play on the heads a little bit. It's going to be really good fun though, and we'll
It feels
see.
like for me, the champion is coming from the other side.
Yeah, and I don't know at the minute. You've got to because it's very tough.
Marshall looks so good.
They do. They're back to running the football well, and I want Charles Huff to win one because he's just such a likable dude. You just can't help but root for him. So we'll see, but it's very close. And then the only conference, which with 2 weeks to go, is wrapped up. It's done. It's dusted. The American 2-7-0 teams, Army West Point and Tulane. That is going to be the title game in a couple of weeks' time. For Army, they've got their playoff audition against Notre Dame this week, and then they've got UTSA to finish off the season to hopefully go unbeaten in conference for them. For Tulane, as far as it goes, they have got Memphis next week. They've got a bye this week. It's not going to mean much. That potentially could have been a title game decider or a preview of a title game at one time or another. But I think this is going to be a fun title game when all is said and done, right? You've got two different styles of teams. They're both very good. You've seen Tulane can handle the option because they've just handled Navy, but you figure Army are the better service team this year, and with Navy's downfall and Army still going, it shows. I feel like that could be an underrated classic when we get to it, and I'm looking forward to it.
But if Army somehow beat Notre Dame and win out and have a chance at the playoffs,
You've
do they
got to
risk
put
their
them in.
players in a championship game?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Army's built different. Soldiers never quit. Like
I
they'll
mean, the
go and
playoffs, will they not be in the back of their mind like we do have a potential playoff game here?
Army's players like the one thing they're soldiers. They're disciplined. They won't let this. I don't think the mind games work for service teams. For others, it might because that's what they do, right? For these guys, they're service guys. They're about to do the military service. It's a get away from it. I feel like Army are almost shielded from pressure here. You've got to figure it, and like they've nothing to lose this week. Notre Dame can be beaten. They've just not got to do what Navy did and cough it up 7 times.
Yeah, they
Don't
can't turn
do
it back.
that.
I don't think even
If
would. I
if
genuinely
I
think they need to play a turnover game, 3 games, they'll have a chance to win.
if I was the Army offensive coordinator this week, I would just be spending 10 hours a day with my guys with the ball in their hands trying to punch it out. I would be like doing everything I would be preaching ball security. I would be like, you treat this thing like it is your newborn child. You do not let anyone take it away from you. And if you do, you're a terrible human being. So, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But I'm looking forward to that very much. So that is the state of the conference address there. That's where everything's at. Still a lot to be decided. Not much really can be decided this week with a lot of the non-con stuff, but we'll just do a week by week on this now and let you know. But we've got one good game in the bank already, right? We're going to move through into the previews now because we are approaching 9 and we need to move this on there. But Brent just quickly mentions, what is your opinion on the popular QB Michigan is recruiting? Bryce Underwood, I believe, has turned them down. 11 million NIL deal, and he said no to stay at LSU. And weirdly enough, the commit they lost because he was annoyed they were trying to recruit him has just ended up at Florida State, of all teams. It's kind of a funny sitch, that, right?
I think with the whole Nussmeier situation, I think the Michigan job is like say it's anyone's if they want it. But do you want it?
Hmm.
Is it a great situation to throw a freshman quarterback into? Honestly, I don't think it is.
I
But I
mean,
think LSU with Lacey, with Durham, with their whole general setup of an offense that's been really good at bringing in young and transfer quarterbacks, I think, yeah, I think Underwood stays at LSU. Like I said, I think he goes in there. Garrett might move on. Garrett might declare it could be his job next year. And like I say, if we're rumoured of the NIL, the Dave Portnoy try to whisper in, offer a little bit of money, which I'm pretty sure he's definitely not allowed because he's not NIL
I mean,
registered. He's just, but yeah, if
y-
that's the case, that is embarrassing. If he's turned out like $10 million,
no, yeah, like 2.5 million a year. Like there's some NFL quarterbacks not
that's
earning that.
crazy.
Like he's earning more than Brock Purdy does for playing for, San Francisco 49ers. But the crazy thing, like everyone's forgotten about Jaden Davis, like their big recruit this year. He sat there, and Michigan are trying to tempt all these quarterbacks in, and you must be there thinking, like he was a. I think he got downgraded to 4-star. He was a 5-star at one point and got down, but he's there right now. They've not shown any intent of using him in his freshman year at all, and now they're going out trying to court guys. Michigan's case is interesting. They do not have a commit at quarterback in 2025 right now. They did get that really big one for 2026. Is it Brady Hart? I'm pretty sure he's like a high 4-star guy, but that's for 2026. They ain't got one next year, so I'd give it Jaden Davis. I don't know why he's not playing now. Give him the game next week. You throw him out there, see what he's worth, see if you've got something for the future. I just don't understand not playing him at this point. So, but the Michigan QB situation is up in
It
the air.
reeks of
But Portnoy's
desperation
gonna.
for throwing money at people.
I mean, you should go and get someone. I mean, go get the way they like to run the football. Why not take a Mattia or someone like that? Would Mattia not work there? The way he runs it and can sling it around a bit, and it feels like they need a portal guy. It just
Yeah,
really does.
they've got to bring a quarterback. Honestly,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
think I don't think a freshman's the right idea.
No, no, not at all. So, you've got to go to the portal, get someone with experience, see what it's done for Minnesota this year, see what it's done, for, all these other teams, for Indiana this year. So, that's it. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on what is going on though. But now we've got to go into week 13 and discuss what's going on here. And of course, right, they're not in the pick watch because I know a lot of people are not brave enough to go and try and pick one of these guys. But we've got, as we mentioned at the start of the show, we've had two incredibly good seasons from underdogs, and they're both unbeaten. Army, Indiana. We'll start with Army first, and this is for a service team, it's very difficult to get into the postseason. It's very difficult in this modern era to make an impression on there. But here they are, their first year in the American. They are completely unbeaten on the season. They've got to go and play Notre Dame, and it's this will be the toughest game of their season by far. Outside of the American, the non-cons are not usually that tough as well. They usually have an FCS opponent in there, a couple of lower level teams knocking round. But this is a great Army team. It is the best team in the country in terms of discipline. Fewest penalties of any team in the nation. Number one in rushing. Number one on passing efficiency. Number two in time of possession. And it has turned the ball over, and I will say this now, 3 times all season. Two of them in one game against North Texas. Now, this means nothing because Navy turned it over twice all season before they played Notre Dame, and then there were 6 there at this point. But you look at Notre Dame on the other side, obviously that massively disappointing loss to Northern Illinois earlier in the year, but Notre Dame have their own great running game. It's powerful, it's flashy, it's got zazazz. It's a different type of rushing game to what you get with the Army one. Like the Army one grinds you apart. It's long drives. It's, getting defenders into a depression, having to be out there for so long. And but Notre Dame's is a lot more flashy. It just hits you hard. You try and get quick yardage, try and keep you off your feet, try and be able to, get you unsettled. Notre Dame are 15-point favorites in this. It's at a neutral area. There's no home advantage for this one at this point. And we've seen what Notre Dame did to Navy. It wasn't a competitive game at all. Is there any chance in the world the Army can win this game if they play their disciplined, tough running, time of possession winning brand of football? There are weaknesses in this Notre Dame team. They gave up 230 yards rushing to Navy. So the Russian defense is not as great as it could be. I don't know. What are your feelings on this? Does this feel inevitable that the Giants going to win, or do you actually see something with this Army team where you're like, they're different to what Navy are, and they actually can win this?
I think Army would have to play a perfect game, I'd say, and that means 0 turnovers. And yeah, minimal, can count on one hand, penalties, because Notre Dame will probably, if I'm my Notre Dame players, I'm the coach, I tell the players, you go out there, you get under their skin, you make them commit a penalty, you act like, yeah, go out there and be your most bullish, arrogant asshole selves and try draw a penalty out of them. You got to get under their skin. Because like I say, any penalties, any turnovers for me, Army lose. But yeah, Notre Dame can be beaten, but I think Army need to play perfectly clean football, which means I'm going to take Army. I'm going to take Notre Dame, but not by 15. No, no, no. I think this is like a 6, 7 point game max. I think they'll be way closer than Navy could even dream to get to.
But we're saying that this is probably going to be a bit too step far for them.
Yeah. I don't think Notre Dame are great, but I just think they're too well rounded. Bit flashy, a bit more explosive. I think flashy and explosive can beat discipline.
Yeah, it's tough. We like the underdog. We like to, see the you've got to figure how can they
Yeah. And I
win?
know
Like
people say it's a free hit, like there's no pressure on Army, but I genuinely think there is pressure on Army. Like
yeah.
they are the genuine threat to Boise State. Playoff
Mm,
spot, that 12 ranking, Army are a credible threat to them. And anyone saying, like you say, that they shouldn't be thinking about it, it's kind of hard not to.
mm. And it's just, for me, this means so much because you're setting the precedent here for the 12-team playoffs. Now it's going to go up to 16, admittedly, but you need to lay down an argument that teams outside of the big boys club can come and join. And you can be unbeaten. They could be a one-loss team at the end of the season. They will get no consideration if they lose to Notre
No.
Dame. This just feels like one of these two, for all our sakes, needs to win and cause an upset. And then they're going to give the College Football Playoff Committee a hella bad decision. Are they going to put in a one-loss Indiana team potential, or a one-loss Indiana team because they lost the Big Ten championship over a two-loss, three-loss SEC team? What are they going to do? Because you figured they would, but this just feels huge. This is why it was all the start of the show that this feels like it's a big deal, and collectively we need these guys to win. Which brings us on to the second one, Indiana at Ohio State, number 5 versus number 2. Indiana perfect on the year, 10-0, 7-0 in the Big Ten. Yes, they played the 106th strength of schedule in the country. I know. No, Ohio State are 9-1. They're 6-1. They are lost only to Oregon. They've had a few little slip-ups along the way. Ohio State favored by 2 scores. It's 12 points at this. And again, right, we talk about, this is David versus Goliath essentially, but I don't feel like there's a David in this one. So, you know, this Indiana team, right? It's built on its offense. You've got Curtis Rourke, who has looked one of the most unflappable quarterbacks in the entire country. He's come up from the MAC. He's playing power football for the first time, and he has looked completely unfazed all season. He's not had a bad stretch. He's had the odd game here and there where he's been a bit meh. He's had an injury where he missed one game. They still won. Like, this Indiana team's shown it can win without its starting quarterback. It couldn't win games at all before this season. You've got a two-back running room, Justin Ellison and Tyson Lawson, who've been very good this year, and Justice Ellison can run. You have an offensive line which has kept Rourke upright, which has made a really good run game. These guys are succeeding. You're coming up against this behemoth, which is the Ohio State defensive line, which is just full of future NFL draft picks, and is one of the most devastating units in the entire country. But then you flip this. You've got Will Howard at quarterback. Yes, you've got Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, etc. But then you've got this Ohio State offensive line marred by the injury to its center, which could be huge because he's out and they don't have a. I know the guys they're putting in there don't traditionally play there. So there are mistakes to be had. And who are they coming up against? Indiana State's defensive line is every bit as good as Ohio State's. You have a look at Mikhail Camara on the edge. You have a look at James Carpenter at nose tackle. This has just been a dominating unit all year, and it loves to get to the quarterback, and it loves to make life rotten for them. And Indiana traditionally have good defenses. The linebackers, the corners, they send guys to the draft out of these units. This feels out of the two of them like it's more likely for an upset. Kurt Signetti, forgot to mention at the top of the show, has got a new contract already with them. They gave him a new contract this week. Kind of maybe feels like a week too early. You want to win this one first and then just give him mega bucks, or maybe they're trying to get him while he's cheap before he wins this one. But what are your thoughts on this? Because for me, I look at this and I see the recipe, I see the ingredients Indiana have. If they play their best football, they can beat this Ohio State team at the shoe and cause the shock of all shocks.
Yeah, I'm picking Indiana. I think Indiana. Like I said, we saw a Nebraska team that should have beat Ohio State. Honestly, Indiana would wipe the floor with Nebraska. But that wasn't a good Nebraska team, even at the time, that caused Ohio State lots of headaches and made them work hard and in the end kind of scrape by. If we see the best Hoosiers team, I think they'll go toe to toe, and I think they can come out with a win. And I think the loss of a starting center is massive.
It is. He's been one of the best in. He's been one of the best in the country.
That is a natural. It's a neutralizer.
He's been one of the best in the country this year. I don't know. I just feel like they're not here by mistake. You know, you can say with, and I know people will keep quoting the schedule, but it's not their fault that they beat Michigan. Michigan are national defending champions. And I know a lot of teams have beaten Michigan this year, but they've still beaten them. They still deserve their respect. And I think trench-wise, they are equipped to go up against them. Yes, they're at the shoe, and it's going to take a hell of a thing. I'd be more confident if they were at home. I think they can do it because I don't think Ryan Day's team has a spine. Every time they come up in a big game with something on the line, they fail, even when they're expected to win. So I do believe they can do it. I hope at the very minimum they're competitive. If they lose by 3 points and they win next week, I still think Indiana have a case for the playoffs. I genuinely do. So whether they let three big teams in, who knows? But we'll see. It's very close. I'm really, really rooting for Indiana this week. This is the one we need. On the flip side, just to ask this, if theoretically Notre Dame or Ohio State lost this week, do you think they have a claim to get in the college football playoffs after that? I mean, for Notre Dame, I feel like it's a no. You lose to Northern Illinois and Army, you don't deserve to be anywhere near it. For Ohio State, I know it's Oregon's a loss, but Indiana, everyone's crucifying Indiana for their record at the minute. I do not think they should be counted as a quality loss if they lose. I feel like Ohio State don't deserve to get there if they lose to Indiana. I don't know. What do you think? Are these two teams done if they lose?
I don't have Notre Dame getting there if they win. I don't
Oh,
rate Notre
really?
Dame. I don't have Notre Dame in the playoffs.
Oh.
No, I don't make much of their schedule. I've not been impressed with them most weeks. I still think uh, a mid two loss SET team will take Notre Dame spot. I'm
Ooh.
just not high on the Fighting Irish. Like I say,
Yeah.
they'll win, they'll be in the conversation, but nah, I still think an SEC takes spot. Like I say, if Ohio State loses, yes, strong contender to knock them out. Because I guarantee the bad Michigan team will make life really difficult for Ohio State.
Hmm.
It will seize them with pain. Like I said, that Ohio State have got everything to play for. Michigan have gone into a tailspin this year. They will be more pumped up than ever to make life as hard as for the Buckeyes. So yeah,
And I,
I think if a loss, I think Ohio State's in trouble.
and I think there is a situation where even if Indiana loses, if they beat Purdue next week and Ohio State lose again, Indiana can still actually make the title game. So it's not be all and end all for Indiana this week, but you feel like if they really want to convince the committee
Yeah,
they're
got to
worth
win
their
here.
salt, you've got to win this game. Yeah, absolutely. So it is at OSU, Brent. So they're on the road. But again, I think all the pressure's on Ryan Day. He's just
Yeah,
failed
there's
year after
no
year
pressure at all
after
on
year.
team or
Exactly.
Indiana.
He has failed year after year after year there. I know he's
If he loses to
beaten the
Indiana and then like, even
I'd
if he beats
fire
maybe
him.
Michigan, you can still make a strong case to fire Ryan Day. Yeah,
I would fire Ryan Day if he loses this. Ohio State should be competing for playoffs and national championships. They're not doing that. And I have a horrible feeling they'd still be let in as a two-loss team over someone like Army, even if they went unbeaten. So we'll have to see with it. But these are the two big ones. I just have this nitty-gritty feeling Indiana are gonna do it. Right, let's get the pick watch ones out the way. So I think we've kind of answered this one already, but of course we've got the top of the table clash in the Big 12. BYU at Arizona State. BYU coming off
two
their
scores, ASU
heartbreaking
by two
loss.
scores.
Didn't even need to finish it. You know, I've been on the Arizona State train all year, so we're gonna go
ASU
with
by
that.
10 plus.
There we go. You you have your winners there. We go down into the CUSA action now. So Sam Houston at Jacksonville State. Sam Houston, Ryan, what a turnaround for them this year after their tough start to life in the FBS last year. They have really, really come out of their shell this season, and Casey Keeler has done one hell of a job with them. They struggled to get past Kennesaw State the other day, but Kennesaw, of course, coming off the coach firing. You notice he turned up at the stadium and greeted all the players outside of the stadium. I thought was
Yep.
a great troll move. But by hook or by crook, they're finding ways to win. The two games before that, they won 10-7 and 9-3, which, sounds like baseball games. The 23-17 in this. You know what this is going to be? It's going to be a run fest. They're going to be run, run. Who's going to break one another first? Jacksonville State are is it on the road or is they at home? I'm pretty sure it's at home for them. I just did said it's at home, didn't I? Yeah, it is. So they're at home. But Sam Houston, you talk about teams with nothing to lose. These guys have nothing to lose. They probably were not expected to get to this point this year so far. They got a free hit against this run heavy Jacksonville State team. Do we see an upset in the CUSA or are Jacksonville State gonna cement their title aspirations and get in the championship game?
I'm going to take the upset. I'm going to take the Bearcats.
Ooh, you know what? So was I. I'm going to go in that direction as well. They seem to be their defense is incredibly good at this moment in time. As I say, it's given up what 17, 20, 27 points in the last three games. It's right on top at the minute.
You
And if
slow down the
anyone's going to
run
be able
game
to
and make
keep,
Tyler Huff only throw the ball,
yeah,
I think he'll get success.
you've got a chance. So yeah, we're going the Sam Houston upset there. And then we've got the other one. So we've got Western Kentucky at Liberty, and Western Kentucky, for intents and purposes, have been the better team of these two this year. But Liberty obviously have their home advantage. Western Kentucky also coming off a very damaging loss to LA Tech last time out, which, yeah, they could have been nice and clear in this one. They're not. So they really need to rebound from this. Caden Veldkamp's still playing at quarterback. I still like him. I still think he's very good. But this Louisiana Tech team's just been one of those annoying sides this year who can win one week really spectacularly and then lose spectacularly the next. Liberty need to win this, right? And they need all results to go against them to try and make a go of this here. But we previewed the CUSA. We both had Western Kentucky making the title game. We thought they were the best all-round team. Will they make it matter when it counts, or has their aspirations run out as well?
I've not been impressed by Liberty recently. I feel like they've looked to shadow upon themselves. Veldkamp will get his mojo back. Hilltoppers will just topple them.
So I'm gonna take Western Kentucky as well. Easton Mess has been so good recently, and I want him to continue being great. He's the next Malachi Corley, indeed. Big 12 next. We're back to the Big 12. Colorado at Kansas. Kansas upsetting everybody left, right, and center. Colorado, this is the one they need. They win this, they're in the title game, but they're on the road. And Kansas are the form team in the Big 12 right now, beating all the best teams and finding ways to win. Can Colorado avoid the upset, Ryan?
Yes, because their D line can stop Neal. I think Colorado's just got too much.
See, I've actually bet on Colorado a lot this year, so I'm gonna stick the train with them and see what goes on. So yeah, we've got a Colorado sweep there. And I'm sorry to have to put this one in, but it's tough having all these scrub non-cons around on the big teams. It makes finding good games hard. We've got Wisconsin at Nebraska next, the battle of the trailer trash in the Big Ten, as you were. Wisconsin obviously very nearly beat Oregon last weekend, but they're on a three-game losing streak at this moment in time, and their offense is not scoring really that many points at all. But then you got Nebraska, who, as you said, are on a four-game skid right now, nearly beat Ohio State, but they've scored 7 points, 17 points, 20 points, and 20 points. They're not scoring an awful lot. This is just one of them on-the-season horrible ones where you throw a dart for me. I feel like Nebraska should win this, and I'm gonna pick Nebraska with no knowledge behind it whatsoever. But I just think they're a bit more of a balanced team. This Wisconsin offense is terrible, but who have you got, Rye?
No, I just think this Wisconsin defense will give Raiola hell. It looks terrible lately, and I just don't see him shaking it off. I say Wisconsin winning ugly one.
You've got Wisconsin winning an ugly one, so we split only for the second time on this. So Wisconsin, when I can spell it correctly. Next, we're in the Mountain West. We've got Air Force at Nevada. So Nevada have been, as I say, a pain in the neck for a lot of teams this year. They've looked really good. They gave Boise State a very close game 2 weeks ago. They've had a bye this week, so they're coming off rest. But they're coming up against an Air Force team that have picked up traction lately. They've taken down Fresno State 36-28, and then they absolutely pummeled Oregon State into non-existence 28-0 there. It feels like the Falcons have found their wings now, Ryan, but they're coming up against the Wolfpack, who themselves are having a better season than most anticipated, and they're working and playing really hard, and they're at home. Who do we have here at the bottom of the battle, Mountain West, but two teams looking good?
Air Force feel like fool's gold. I don't trust them. I'm not buying it. I'm going to take Nevada.
I'm going to take Air Force, so we're going to split on there. Then we've got Colorado State at Fresno State. So I mentioned this earlier. Colorado State win out, and they're playing Boise in the Mountain West title game. Fresno State have been a state recently, for joke of a bad pun. They've lost to Air Force and Hawaii in a row, although they did beat San Jose State and Nevada before that. But this is in the Rams' hands, right? Can they go on the road and beat Fresno State?
No, I'm just go for the
don't,
Bulldog upset.
You don't think they've got the backbone? That's fine. I'm going to go for Jay Norvell's men, so we will see. Sunbelt, Marshall at Old Dominion. So we talked about Marshall. They just need one more win, and they're there. That running game looks so good this year. But Old Dominion continue to be a pain in the neck for everyone. They've lost their last two, but they only lost by three to James Madison the week just gone, and it was just eight to App State the week before. They've ran a bit of a gauntlet recently, and before that, they beat Texas State and Georgia Southern in a row, and they're both in contention in their respective conferences. So this is a very competitive Old Dominion team, Ryan. They're at home, and you got Marshall on the road with everything to lose. So is there an upset here, or are the Thundering Herd going to take down the Monarchs?
Yeah, it just feels like ODU are another stumbling block on that juggernaut of the Marshall offense. I think it'll be competitive, but I think the Herd book their spot.
Oh, damn, we're at half nine. Right. I've got Old Dominion, so we're splitting again. We're splitting quite a bit this week. Stanford at Cal in the ACC. It's the big rivalry. It's another iteration of this, but of course it's a West Coast battle in the East Coast American League, which is fun. Stanford, big win this weekend just gone, as we mentioned, against Louisville. Cal, very competitive team, always play hard. But Cal have dominated Stanford a bit in this rivalry recently. Rye, who have you got winning?
Stanford, I can't trust Cal. They can't finish.
See, I'm the like Elik Ayamano stan, so I'm going Stanford as well. And then finishing it off, head coachless Rice at may as well be head coachless UAB. Trent Dilfer and co against so Rice at UAB. Oh God. You know what? For a laugh, I'm going to pick UAB and see what's what. I have no idea, but who have you got right to finish us off?
Rice, and this will be
Mm.
the final nail in the Dilfer coffin. The
Yeah,
losers
I
get
could see
fired.
that. I need to win back a few points though, so I'm going to go against common conception there and do that. In terms, so that's the pick watch. I need to quickly get out here so Matt can get this all done. Where are we at? So we've had a few scores this week so far. So as mentioned, Buffalo beat Eastern Michigan, Ohio beat Toledo, and then last night Miami of Ohio beat Northern Illinois. Akron whacked Kent State, and Central Michigan, well done to them, beating Western. So in terms of ranked fixtures, Texas at home to Kentucky, Minnesota at home to Penn State. You feel confident maybe calling an upset there, Ryan? For the resident Gophers fan?
I think they'll be competitive, yeah, but I
All
think
right.
they'll just fall short.
Where's the upset going to go? Name me the upset most likely. Minnesota at home to Penn State, Florida at home to Ole Miss.
Florida.
Oh, really? Okay. That could be intriguing there. Georgia play UMass. Miami of the Hurricanes play Wake Forest. Tennessee play UTEP. You're not going on there. SMU away to Virginia. That can't be the one that trips them up, surely, right? I mean, that screams trap game bigger than anything else. But Virginia are a mess right now. Like, surely not. But
They
it
don't
could.
stand a chance now.
No, we got that. Iowa State away at Utah. Yeah, they're gonna lose.
Mm, the painted helmets, the whole Utah look, that does not bode well for the Cyclones.
I hate you so much.
You
Every time you
look
bet
good.
you're good.
If you look good, you've got to play good.
Oh, yeah. Clemson are at home to the Citadel. South Carolina are at home to Wofford. Missouri at home to on the road to Miss State, and Illinois on the road to Rutgers. I don't think there's anything really outside of that I want to mention. Oh yeah, we need to finish this off right. 1-10 Charleston Southern at 1-9 Florida State. I know I shouldn't laugh, Ash. I'm so sorry. I apologize. It's only like a 30-point spread in this. And you say only, but this probably would have been about 40, 45 at the start of the year. I mean, it'd be hilarious, but I bet, yeah.
I think I should cry.
I
We would
think he
have
would as
tears.
well. We would have actual tears there. Yeah, I don't see anything else really worth mentioning at this point. Is there anything else you want to mention quickly before we get out of here?
Nope. I just think a lot of business. I think a lot of births are going to be decided this weekend. I feel like the pitch will be much clearer.
Yeah, it will indeed. And of course, we will be back next week discussing that. And as they will probably start taking a look at the Shrine and Senior Bowl lists as well and start pointing out some names for you to take a look at as well. So join us in a week's time for that. In terms of the main podcast, it's going to be coming up as soon as this show has done editing with Max. He's going to kill me. So, yeah, we'll be back shortly for the Indianapolis Colts preview. Please do join us for that. Appreciate all of you who've been in the building with us today. Mile Marker, Bren, Lisa, all that good stuff. Hope you do as well. Hope you're all doing well. I say, if you ever want anything asking, if we're starting to merge into draft season now with people declaring and that. So if there's anything you want us to do, any positions you want to know about, all that good stuff, just ask us, and we'll start getting on that early whilst we can before all the playoff stuff starts. But yeah, thanks ever so much, Rye. Thanks, Hank, as well, who's been in here this evening. We appreciate you all, and thanks for bearing with us. As I say, I've not watched as much college football as I normally do this week, so it's been a bit different. But yeah, it's good fun. Go Army, as much as it pains me to say that. Go Indiana. Please, one of you, for the love of us all, cause an upset this week that we can come back and celebrate next week. We will be rooting for you all. Hope you're doing well. And of course, good luck to Rise Arizona State as well in their big game against BYU. Of course, we want to see them do well. So thanks ever so much. We appreciate you all. We'll see you again shortly. Thanks ever so much. Bye. And Matt's not at his computer, so we're still live. So we can just wait another minute until he's here. Let me message him. Yeah, dude, you got anything you want to ask us while I'm here? Then yeah, we're still here just for now. I thought you'd have been back by this point. Um, oh Lord, oh no, where are we at? Marmark says, thanks, Aunt Ryan, enjoying this. Been telling people to come here as draft questions are starting. I appreciate it, but we appreciate having you in here. You regular listeners for us, you can ask us whatever the hell you want, because we just appreciate the hell out of having you here. So you will all take precedence over any newbies. So you can always ask. We're always happy to do bits. How's the FCS going on, by the way? Has anything else like just gone on there recently in terms of
I think our bids. I think we'll have quite a few confirmed this weekend.
is it
I think
just
we still
still
have.
is it still just the one at the minute?
I I haven't well, look. I know it was just Mercer last week.
I didn't see any of the result because of
I
obviously.
think the Big Sky and the big conferences. I think will come down this week. I think there was still a lot of them were down to the top two at least.
Um, it's
But their committee, like you say, will make the selections very soon.
Brent goes. I'd like to know about possible QB prospects for Michigan next year. I mean that could be quite fun, but I guess we'd have to wait and see who went in the portal first. But who would you like? Who comes to mind? Like, if there's anyone you think, like maybe a group of five quarterback who's playing really well, or someone that you think would fit the system, because. Where did Ohio State got Will Howard from Kansas State? So you can still poach from another power program, but the style of Michigan quarterback's odd. It's like Alex Orji doesn't strike me as a Michigan quarterback. I don't know what a Michigan quarterback is. It they went with the pocket passes like Cade and that, and then JJ was a bit more of a dual threat guy. Are they going in that direction? Do they want JJ back again? I guess they would want someone in that mold.
I imagine they would. Yeah,
Like I say,
yeah. I imagine they need someone like say don't need a huge arm, but it's no turnover players, and it needs someone deadly accurate.
oh, we got a cat for the show now as well. We're getting a relative. Who's the cat?
Yeah, this is Bella. This is
Bella.
Lorraine's. This is Lorraine's ragdoll.
Oh, so we got Hank and Bella.
Yeah,
Better
she's
look.
asleep on the sofa. That's where she'd be, and she's come over here.
Oh, everyone say hi to Bella. Lovely. Um, yeah, it's an odd one. Would maybe some, like I say, a dual threat guy. Like that's the way you want to go. I guess it depends. Are they going to change offensive coordinator? Are they going to bring a new offensive scheme in? Because it feels like they need to. It feels stale as like the play calling has been awful. I think if anything, it feels like they need a new play caller before they need a new quarterback. Because it feels like whoever's calling plays is just dragging down the level of the
Yeah,
quarterback.
I'd invest in some new offensive assistants,
See,
and we'll see potential.
I would absolutely love it if they took Brennan Marion from UNLV and they took John Mattia and they implemented the go-go in Michigan. I think it would be absolutely tremendous. He will be coaching at a power program one day, and Michigan seems like the place to do it. They would love a high-tempo, run-heavy offense where they don't have to rely on the passer as much. That's what they're built for. So that's what I'd do. I would hire Brennan Marion as your offensive coordinator, and I would bring John Mattia in as your quarterback. And I think that sorts Michigan out quickly. So it's my marker goes, I've got a cat on my lap. Milia or Mila? Mila? We're a cat show now, right? We're a cat show. Got Mila and Bella. Bless. Um, any JUCO QBs coming to the bigger show? Ooh, interesting. I don't really keep an eye on JUCO per se until the season's
No,
done, but
it's
you know
quite
what?
hard to keep up with a year.
You know what, Mal Marker? We'll do that as a segment for you. We'll need to go away and have a look at that because obviously doing FBS football's hard. Doing FCS football with it's even harder. Going down to the JUCOs is impossible. But a lot of former FBS guys end up down there. So I don't know how is JUCO like East Coast, West Coast type thing. I don't know how the conferences are staggered. It's a bit you
I
would
think it's regional. Yeah,
I think it is because like the Florida JUCOs are stacked with not the Florida ones, the California JUCOs are stacked with talent. Obviously, you've got a lot of offshoot because there's not a lot of places you can go if you don't go to USC, Washington, Oregon's all that unless you go into the Mountain West. Like when we did the CUSA stuff, so many players came out of the Cal JUCOs last year. I don't know if any of the JUCO quarterbacks have flourished. We will look at that for you a mile marker. That would actually be a very interesting thing to do. Um, he said, "Oh yeah, do you? I'd like that West Coast. We'll do that. We'll do some West Coast and East Coast ones for you. Maybe we can break it down. Right, Matt's here now, so yeah, appreciate you all. We'll see you again shortly. But yeah, enjoy the weekend, and again, well done, Army. Well done, Indiana. Sorry, good luck. Hopefully, we're saying well done next week. Peace out. Bye."
Recording stopped.